All right, episode 025, Business Broken to Smokin podcast. We got a cool little song here by the Grateful Dead, Truckin'. We were thinking of you. We got Tim Campbell here, owns a awesome business, Dearman Moving and Storage, doing a lot of trucks and stuff. So thought this would be a really fun intro.
Yeah,
Grateful Dead.
Nice group.
And old Mike Steele's going to be really happy about this too, by the way. So.
Cheers, guys.
Yes. So fun.
Welcome, Tim.
Yeah, so we got Tim Campbell here, business owner, business operator. What's your role?
CEO is kind of my seat that I'm sitting in, but also Chief Visionary Officer, CVO, and I'm kind of working my way out of the Director of Sales and Marketing, kind of train somebody up in there, and they want my job and placing myself there. But and I also
CVO.
look really a lot at the finance side of analyzing kind of CFO type things, sit back and look at the ratios and see if I see problems in those areas also.
How many folks you got working there?
Anywhere from 25 to 40 in the summertime. We wrap up, we're up around 40s. So
Yeah. How long have we been working together? So just for, what do you call that?
Posterity?
No, no. When a lawyer has to disclose, full disclosure.
Oh, full disclosure, yeah.
So we've been working together for a number of years here. When was that?
It was fall of 18, so we're on 4 years.
Good.
We're going into the fifth.
Got through a pandemic?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been through a number of ups and downs.
The pandemic, I don't even know is the worst of things.
No.
Yeah, there were worse things than the pandemic. Folks are like, the dang pandemic. Like, well,
we got a story to tell.
Yeah. Well, so give us a little history of Dearman. I mean, this is a family-owned business, right?
Families,
You've been at it for a long time. So kind of take us all the way back to the beginning and give us like a little 10-minute kind of summary of the history of Dearman.
Yeah, so we've been in business since 1963. Company started, my dad was like involved in the operations of it back then, and we started really moving like telephone equipment was kind of the niche that we got into, moving a lot of product to United Telephone out of Gallion, Ohio, going to Johnson City, Tennessee, things like that. My dad kind of moved up, became president of the organization. They had some multiple locations, Mansfield, Ohio, Johnson City, Tennessee. They opened another one in Akron, Ohio. And in 1980, my dad got the opportunity to buy Akron and Mansfield. And that was in Atlanta, I think, and Johnson City, that those stayed with the other group. So I started really working in the business, so probably in the late 70s, early 80s. And I was on jobs in middle school and high school and things like that, coming up through the business. My brother's the same way. Early 90s, we kind of formed another corporation that was the four family owners, me and my brother, Chris and my brother and mom and dad. And Dearman still existed separately, and it was reasons we did that. And we kind of started to grow and that was called J-Track, Jim, Tim, Ruth Ann, and Chris is what it stood for.
Okay, I always wondered what
that's what that is.
stood for.
And then kind of ran those two separately for a while, and then at one point J-Track kind of gobbled up and owned Dearman, owned the DBA. Chris and I, were owners of the J-Track, then became owners of Dearman through that. And then in probably about 2010, Chris and I transitioned to this second generation. We're the owners, and now we're getting ready to transition to ownership of the third generation. My daughter, we have 5 kids or 9 kids between Chris and I, and there's one of them that's actually really interested in running the business, and she's taken over. And I have another one that's younger yet. She's kind of learning the business, but she'll probably go out, and she's only 18. She's got some ways to go yet.
Yeah. That's awesome. When did you and Chris kind of start taking it over from your dad, and what was that transition like?
So when I got in, it was like, I loved your analogy earlier. We were talking before we got together, and it's like the bricklayer and the home builder and the house of God type thing. When I got into it, we were that moving company. That's what we did. That's how we described ourselves, things like that. And I got into the business, and I was I went to college and came back to help out a little bit. I had some ideas, and it's like, how can we take this business to the next level and things like that. And my dad had bought a computer, and he used to go around and tell everybody, hey, we got a computer. We had, this was, the late 80s, early 90s. We got a computer. He didn't tell him that the computer was sitting over in the corner in the box. We had a computer.
And this is like a 386 or something?
Yeah. Probably,
You could put a list of names in there. And that's
All right.
So that was, that was kind of my first passions. Is like, okay, let's move into technology and let's see how technology can become part of this business. And that was one of the things that we've always led. So we set up that computer. We started to put our books on the computer and accounting, and we started to add some of our sales and pricing and stuff on the computer. I remember when I came in and we had a bookkeeper that did the books, and I said, okay, we're gonna have this accounting stuff. We're gonna do it on the accounting. It's like she fought, and for 2 years she kept two sets of books, the ones on paper and the ones on the computer. And every month she'd come to me to point out to me where her computer was wrong, or what the computer was wrong and her books were right. And every month I'd have to show her, well, actually you transposed this number, or this didn't add up right, and it's actually the computer caught your mistakes for you. But it took her 2 years, and then she finally jumped over and did the computer. But we've always embraced technology. We always want to lead in that. So it's like, how can we embrace change and technology to offer better experience for our customers, better experience for our employees, to make it fun to be at. And so we're just not this moving company. That's not what we do. It's like, so I've loved that part of our business.
So when was that transition?
So that was that would have been 1985, 86 when I first started.
And then when did you and Chris take over from mom and dad?
2010 is when the official ownership took over, but I was running the business probably in the mid to late 90s. I was really heavily running it. Mom was kind of working her way out. Dad was, and I just didn't really have a title. I was running sales. I was running operations. I just kind of had the vision, even back then, even though I didn't have necessarily the title.
Did you kind of take that by default? Did you kind of like just I don't know, end up there? Or was there an intentional point where you and your mom and dad sat down and Chris and go, hey, let's have Tim run this thing?
It was unintentional. It was completely by mistake, and we made so many mistakes in the process of it. It's like, that's one thing. It's like, I would caution any business owner. And it's like this thing between family businesses are messy. The one thing that we did, and we did terribly wrong, and we try not to do it wrong the next generation and the next time, is my parents, we were both brothers. They loved us both. So they made us equal in the business, I was in the business 4, 5, 6 years beforehand. Then my brother came in and he gets the same exact salary. And it's like, okay, don't do that to your business. It's like, just because you have a kid that maybe wants to work in the business and things like that, don't necessarily build a seat for a kid just because he wants to work in your business. Build seats and then see if any of your kids fit into that seat. And don't do it. Don't try to do it the other way. That was a terrible mistake I think we made. For me, getting to go through all the different seats, I started in sales. First, I started in accounting, doing payroll, bookkeeping, setting up the computers, that kind of stuff, the technology. Then I ended up in some claims, and then I ended up in doing some sales, and then got really into operations, and all along through this, I'm bringing in new technologies and things to us, and then moved into kind of this running all the pieces together. That was good for me to be in the business that way. The downside of that was I was shifting from position to position. I was just hanging on to each one. It's like, okay, well, it's like, so fast forward 20, 25 years later, and every part of the business is running through me. It's like every question, every issue, it's like, oh, we got to go to Tim and find out what Tim thinks. What's Tim think? What do we should do, Tim? And it was a terrible business model.
Yeah. That sounds like delegation, though. It's just going upward.
In the wrong direction.
Now hit the other button, right? Wait, that was the R button. I hit the F
need the
button
reverse part.
All right. Let's reverse delegate this whole thing. I can take more. Well, that's so how. So you're looking around the business, and how old are you at this point? 90s? What are you? 30?
Well, and I graduated high school in '84, so 90. I was 20,
late 20s,
early 20s, and then I kind of started that. Actually, when I started in the business, I was working 2 jobs, and that was the thing. Is like being a business owner sucks. That's what I thought back then, because it's like all your employees seem to make more money than the owners do, and they work a lot less hours, have a lot less problems, and it's like so. At the time, I started working in the business, and it's like I was bartending at night, and so I'd work 8 hours, and then go. Work 4 to 6 hours bartending, and then drink 2 or 3 hours, and then do it all again. It's like,
that doesn't sound healthy. That sounds like that's like military or something. Just go and drink all night and get up early and
do it all over again.
Yeah. Well, so you wandered around the business. So how did you make those decisions to go? Oh, I think that needs help over there, like in sales or. Trucks or moving stuff or whatever, you moved around to those different zones. How did you decide to do that? Or who decided?
It just kind of happened. I mean, they weren't like the job came open and it just kind of, we were growing some. And so kind of falling into those, when some people maybe quit, that's maybe how I ended into sales. Originally kind of my dad did some sales. So I kind of fell into that. Originally, we had one operations and dispatcher, and as we kind of grew, at one time we had like 10 or 12 trucks over the road, so it kind of became a 10-person or 2-person type job. I was doing a lot of load planning and building the loads, and then on the other dispatcher, he was kind of dealing with the crews and that side of it. I wasn't dealing with them as much.
Yeah,
and just kind of evolved. There wasn't a thought out process. We didn't have a map and said this is where we're going and this is the stepping stones or steps how we get there. It's so different than how we look at business now.
Yeah. It's default. A lot of businesses end up, and this is why I'm asking you this, for the benefit of our listeners to maybe go, oh, that's what I'm doing too. Right?
Yeah.
That's a bad idea. The default. Yeah. Sometimes I'll poke at future clients. They'll say, well, why should we work with you? I'm like, well, how did you get into this position? Oh, well, I don't know, just kind of always been here, or whatever.
Yep. We just
like, oh, so you just didn't die. That's how you, like everybody else did or quit or something, and you didn't. Mm-hmm. Like that's default strategy. That's a strategy, but there's a better one, right?
Yep.
And so talk about because there came a point, and there's a funny-ish connection here.
Yeah.
But, funny-ish. That
so it's funny.
It's serious but funny. So what year? What year did this event happen for you?
Well, part of it is like we talk about kind of moving forward. I've always been a visionary, and I always knew that I wanted to take the business to another place, and I struggled to get there, and I just couldn't get there. So about 2010, 2011, 2012, I've just added all these things to my plate. I feel all this stress. I feel all of everything's going through me. My family hated what it was doing to me. My family hated vacations because vacations weren't vacations. They were work things where I called the office 8-10 times a day, checking in, no peace. It wasn't relaxing, things like that. And in fall of 2011, kind of started feeling something's not right here physically. Something's going on physically.
And how old are you about that time?
40. I was 45. So okay. 45. Something doesn't feel. And I somebody who had always eaten healthy. Took care of my body, worked out, exercised. I'm not like a bodybuilder, but I always just took care of myself. And so knowing something's just off, I don't feel right. Sometimes it'd be dizzy spells. Sometimes it'd be shortness of breath. Sometimes I break out in a cold sweat, and it's like, and I'm out on Google and looking things, and it's like, and one of the things that obviously comes up is something's going on with your heart, but there's all these other things too. And it's like, I'm 45, heart's not my issue. Finally, brought it up to my wife, and she says, let's go see the doctor. I went to tell the doctor, and the doctor's like, you're 45, you're in good health. We're pretty sure it's not your heart, but we're going to eliminate the worst things first and kind of work through it. And this was like November of 2011. I had all these tests. they checked my esophagus, they checked my stomach, they checked liver, kidneys, all the whole thing. And everything they did, they would run a test of me and then say, well, it's not this, but we're worried about this. So I okay, well, this is eliminated. Now I got something else to worry about. And that they scheduled a stress test for me. And that was down the road. And that was one of the tests. So December 31st of 2011, actually got up that day and felt really good. It's like, oh, whatever has been feeling the last several months, I feel good. Hopped on the treadmill, ran a 5K, and just felt like, man, feel great. And that night we had some people over, and we for New Year's Eve, and took them, one couple home, took them home, and was carrying stuff up to their second floor apartment. And man, it hit me again. I got this weird feeling. I feel kind of. So after 3-4 trips, I said, after this next trip, I'm going to sit down after when I get to the top. Got to the top of the steps and handed them their basket or their box and fell back, passed out and fell down the flight of steps, 11 steps, and landed up on the concrete below.
Oh, man.
Wake up, they're yelling my name, they're Tim, and things like that. And so I spent New Year's Eve in the hospital that night. And they ran all the tests on me again. It's like, I got all these tests. So
Did you get hurt?
No, I didn't get hurt. No, did not get hurt.
You're lucky.
They said blood clots, and they're, all these scary terms they're bringing around. And they run all these tests on me. They ran heart, and they said, no, you didn't have a heart attack because there's no enzymes and things in your blood, so that's not it. They released me New Year's Day. I went home, and so then a couple days later, I had this first stress test, passed the stress test. I had to wear a heart monitor for 30 days. And said, hey, want you to wear this heart monitor. Wore that for 30 days. Nothing happened. And then the month after that, it's like, they're still here. I don't feel right. And I kept saying that. I don't know how to describe this. I'm just not right. And then we had a day where Girl Scout cookies in our warehouse, we delivered and distributed those locally. My son didn't show up to work that day. I had all this stress already in my life, a ton of stress. And I was like, it's a busy day anyhow. And then I go out in the warehouse to help out because he didn't show up, and start to feel that way. And it's like, I'm tired of this. I'm just going to push through it. Pushed through it and collapsed on the warehouse floor. All these Girl Scout moms were around. My dad was there. My niece was there. My wife, I work with my wife. She was at the office and all these things. I ended up collapsed on the floor. They called ER or 911. Squad comes, and they hooked me up, and I'm in a fatal heart rhythm called VFib. And from the time that they called until the time that they actually got me hooked up, and the ER or not the ER, the paramedics got me hooked up, saw that I was in VFib, and shocked me. It was 10 minutes. So I was actually dead for 10 minutes. There was 2 Girl Scout moms that did CPR on me. They did chest compressions only for 10 minutes, but my wife said I was purple. She came out, prayed over me, and the EMT said, hey, we've never brought anybody back from where he is, but they shocked me. And the very first time I came back, was in intensive care for a few days. I went in, was in, the doctors, their word for it is sudden cardiac death. They said, between 3 and 7% people survive that.
Wow.
What they did realize, though, what happened back on January 1st was when I fell down the steps, I actually landed hard enough to restart my own heart in a normal rhythm back then.
So it's like a shock or whatever. So that's how I survived it the first time, but they couldn't. But it's not a heart attack, so it doesn't show up the same as a heart attack. And so got a couple stents put in, and it's been over 10 years now. Life is good. But at that point, it's like all these things and these visions for this company that I envisioned. I realized, first of all, this business, if I would have died that day, this business cannot run without me because everything ran through me. Yeah. So all these people that depend on this business, they're out of a job, or it's going to have to really evolve very quickly. And I realized that what is the point of owning a business that kills you? That this is the end result. What's the win in that? Wow. So I realized, and I just started thinking about and prayer and just looking at life differently. And it's like you get a second chance, so it's like a do-over. Not everybody gets that. Yeah.
And the next several years, just like really looked hard at that. What do we want this to become? What do I want it to become? How do I get us there? And I had no idea. Read a lot of books, things like that. And there's a lot of good stuff out there. Didn't have all the pieces. And then 2017, fast forward 2017, 2018, I guess it was, that summer, I'm reading, I've come across a book called Traction. Started that night like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I pick up the book and I read it all through the night. And I said,
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
This is putting all the pieces together, and this is what we need for our business. And I realized right away that I was sitting in the wrong seat. I was running the business as CEO type integrator, and I'm really more of a visionary for the business. And I really needed an integrator to come alongside me, take off some of this. I needed to get all this stuff off my plate, the right people in the right seats. We need to have some processes.
Yeah.
Read the book, and I think I called you maybe I called EOS like the next day or the day after. And then they put me in contact with you, and we kind of started talking through that. And that's how we got where we're at today.
That was fall of 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and this was a little, and thinking about it, it was a little punky. It was a little, maybe it's a little too bold. I don't know. But, and we were talking about it yesterday with Kaylin, but walked into the, I get the call and the email and whatever. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I go down to pitch to you guys and never having met you. And walk in the lobby. You had a lobby, a foyer, whatever,
right.
entranceway. And there's an article from the newspaper of that event, of your heart attack and the Girl Scout cookies and the whole deal. And for some reason, it just, I don't know, I had 10 minutes or something to stand there. That's why I read the article. Just standing there. And Kaylin was saying she was at the front desk. I don't recall her being there, but I'm reading the article. And so we go in and sit down. I'm like, okay, so the business almost killed you once. What do you say? We stop that. We say keep it from killing you a second time.
Right.
And that was my pitch basically. Was, let's not let it kill you another time. So.
Well, and one of the things is like that's difficult. It's like if you're a visionary and if you've been in business and it's like you have an idea of how to get there, and my staff was so tired of me coming up with new ideas. It's like they were so like, okay, well, this is Tim's next thing. This is Tim's next thing. And it's like none of these were wrong. I just couldn't implement them by myself. I was trying to do it by myself. And we even talked about you can do EOS and self-implement. That's one of the things you can do. I highly recommend against that. You need to work with Lodestone. You need to work with somebody who, I rely so much on you, Mark. It's like I call you, it's like I got to talk through things, and those things you don't get if you try to self-implement. It's like we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be where we are if we'd done that.
I liken it to self-learning the violin or golf.
Yeah.
And golf is such a simple game, right? It's just hit the ball down there in the hole, like in 4 or less strokes, sometimes 5, sometimes 3, and you'll be fine. You'll be like top tier.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, with the stick, just take the stick and hit the ball down there and just hit it in there 4 times. It's like 300 yards. Got it? Okay, cool. And generally 200 yards per shot or whatever. You should be able to do it.
Yep.
No problem. So as you pick it up, and if you look at it that way, as you pick it up, you start learning all these ridiculously bad habits. And you have no idea what you're doing wrong. You have no idea what you're welding into your process or welding into your, here's how we're going to do this now. And then the unlearning of it is twice as painful as the learning, and it takes twice as long to unlearn stuff. If that, that I say twice as long as positive, like you're lucky if it takes twice as long to unlearn something. And that's the number one reason I think folks should resist all self-implementation of any hardcore modality, whether it's how you going to play golf or how you going to restructure your business. And I think EOS or what's in Traction, I think EOS is misnamed. I think they just should have called it Traction. But the book Traction has a fabulous starting point to go, what does a good comprehensive, holistic operating system look like?
Right.
I don't think it's a great system to actually use hardcore. I think it needs to be modified and shifted and molded and shaped. But the basic ideas and the basic tools, it's a great book to kind of go, oh, that's what it would look like. Yes, absolutely.
Well, and that was that framework that it kind of set up.
Yep.
Now, we've changed it and we've grown from it and we've implemented additional things. But that initial framework, we wouldn't have even started there. It's like we were trying to fix symptoms.
Yeah.
You know, we got to, this hurts. We got to let's deal with this symptom.
Yeah.
And it's like the golf swing. It's like, you need to go back to, this is a ball.
Yeah.
And this is a club. It's like, it's like the symptom fixing did not work. And all it did was like, okay, Tim's changing something again. Tim's changing something again. And it's like, this isn't going to work. And then they kind of lose hope and faith in you. And it's like, he's not going to really let go of this anyhow. So we'll play the game for a while and then we'll let him feel like he's accomplished something.
Sure. I love the book Pinnacle for a good deep dive on a basic operating system as well. I would highly suggest folks read that. I would suggest the Rockefeller Habits, The Advantage, Pat Lencioni. That's a great book to kind of help folks go, oh, that's what a fairly robust, comprehensive operating system would look like for a business. All those are good.
Several books on emotional intelligence that are super. It's like that. That's super. That's been. It's like it's not all people are the same. I'm not wired the same. Yeah. It's how do I connect with people who are on the disc? They're a D and I'm a D, or they're a C and I'm a D. And it's like you can't approach things from the same way. That was huge for me. Pat Lencioni's books are awesome. I love business fables. Like and Traction has a book that kind of follows that same thing. Get a grip. So like if you're not really this nuts and bolts type, which is Traction's kind of really, I mean, it's a great book. I loved it. But if you're more of like, I need to hear it in a story format, the Get a Grip was the same thing, but it's like played out in a fable, business fable.
Sure. Well, so you kind of came along, so 2018, we started working together. And at that point we were doing, and at that point I was a professional EOS implementer. And then what? So now spell out maybe those 4 years from then till now, as far as, I don't know, high level changes or ideas or things that have, because your business, safe to say, I'm putting words in your mouth here, but your business is in a really different place now than it was 4 years ago. Right. So what's different now, first of all?
So, well, I work 2 days a week, part-time. I do most of my time. So huge me for my life is completely different. It's like I've really given away. I built up leaders. I built up people. We've got right people in the right seat. We're a business that's run by processes. We're really looking at our meetings. We're looking at our scorecards. We're looking at leading indicators. When I got in the business, I look back at this and like, how did we ever survive business? But my dad did not get his previous year's financials from the accountant until 6 months after the previous year closed, and was making business decisions based on data that was 6 months after 18 months late. Wow. And now we're making business decisions on how many leads did we have come in this week. So far, I mean, they're just completely, diametrically opposed to each other, different way of seeing business. So it's a lot easier for me to see how the business is now, to sit back and look at some scorecards, look at some leading indicators and say, we're going the right direction, and we can adjust so much quicker from those versus when it's all said and done and it shows on your balance sheet or shows up on your income statement, it's too late. Yeah. So we started, one of the funny stories is, meeting one, and we come up and we're starting. It's like, okay, well, what are your core values? And it's like, what are core values? First of all, we want to fix our business, and how's this going to fix?
And you're talking about what? What does that got to do with moving stuff?
And it's like my daughter and I had a conversation, and just within the last couple of months, and she's like, we went to that first meeting, and Mark's talking about core values, and it's like I just thought, this is ridiculous. What are we doing here? And now I look back, and it's those core values have been so instrumental in who we are. And a perfect example of this is I had a customer just last night, a guy I shoot with. We did a move for him, and he says, "Man, your people were just awesome. He goes, they were so polite, they were positive, they were energetic, they worked so hard.
Yeah.
And we realized that core values was, we had spent so much time trying to hire people because of their ability. We hired movers because they had moving experience, they could drive a truck, they had the technical ability. And what we realized is, we kept repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And when we started hiring around core values, we started hearing these kind of feedback from our customers. Positive attitude. They worked hard. They never gave up. They were fun to be around. And it was like it wasn't like, well, they didn't damage my stuff, that, because it's not really about that.
Right.
Is this experience they had working with our people. It starts even like in the inside. We had salespeople that said, that movie, You Had Me at Hello. It was so sold because of the inside salespeople, how they talked to and engaged the customers, so that when the salesperson got out there, it was like, okay, where do I sign up? Price wasn't an even thing. Yeah. And then the crew shows up, and it's just a continuation of that. When we started with you, that's not where we were, though. I mean, we were very segregated. Operations, all of our problems were operational. Sales, we didn't know how to drive sales. We didn't know how to market. We didn't even know what we were marketing. And that core values and identifying who we really were, who our customers were, those were so instrumental in us becoming where we are today. And I've had people sitting in my office. We had a guy that rented some space from us, and he would listen to my calls sometimes with customers. And he came out to me one day and he goes, "You just fired a customer."
Yeah.
And I said, "They weren't our customer." I was like, "I don't want them in our boat. They're going to create kind of problems." He goes, "I cannot believe you fired a customer."
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's because we know who we are now, and they are not our customer. Yeah. And so
that's great.
That was, but back on day one, and I know my brother's looking at me like, "What did you get us into?" Because we're just going to be throwing money after nothing. This is not going to accomplish anything. And but it was so foundational. You have to build this good foundation, and then it allows you to build up from there. And again, we kept trying to fix systems, but our foundation was broken.
Yeah. So talk about your core values. I mean, we had a lot of fun building those, and I think if I remember right, that was we mentioned it early. First day we probably worked on scorecard, accountability chart, some other stuff. But second or third day, and I do this later now. I don't do it right out of the gate. For various reasons, but
probably various reasons would be just like what we're feeling. Is this a waste of time? Is this a waste of money?
Yeah.
Get down the road a little bit, it makes perfect sense. But when you first come in, it's so different to what you're used to.
Yeah. There's a disruption cost that I've noticed over the years with the dozens and dozens of companies I've done this with, where we're fixing a moving vehicle. Like this vehicle, this business that you're in, Jim Collins refers to it as the bus. There's the seats on the right person on the bus, right seats on the bus. That's where this whole idea of like, oh my gosh, what seat are you sitting in and all that. Well, the bus is moving. Like it's freaking hauling down the road.
Yeah.
And there's a lot riding on it. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of clients. There's a lot of family stuff. There's a lot of liability. There's a lot of investment. There's a bunch of people who depend on it, from client to employee to owner. And then it's in some marketplace that it has an impact on. And you can't just rip out the transmission on the fly. You've got to kind of carefully adjust things and keep it on the road.
Right.
It's one thing to kind of pull it off the side of the road for a little bit, for like a day. But so that's why I try now to have minimal disruption and ease folks into some changes that don't hurt anything permanently. We end up changing big things permanently, as in, hey, this room is full of the wrong people. And it's like even going back to golf. It's like, well, the problem here with your golf game is you. I mean, it's not. it's not the stick, or the ball or whatever. It's like, well, buddy, have you thought about croquet? Have you thought about bowling or something?
You're going to say crochet.
Crochet, yeah, right? I mean, it's like, well, so, and that's a huge problem in business where it's like, hey, this is my title. Yeah, I got that, but what do you own? Oh, and we work through that, and it's like, oh, I own, I don't know, trains running on time, for instance. Mm-hmm. It's a great integrator or conductor. I love calling them conductors now. The person in the middle of get work, do work, get paid, or in the middle of here's how we're going to execute. Somebody's got to make sure all three of those get work, do get paid, get meshed together. Well, all right, that person would own, on time, on budget, keep the trains running on time. Like, hey, we said we were gonna, did we? And can we afford it? Or did we have some money left over after we did it? Like we said to these folks, we'll move them for this much money. We did it for that much money. How much is left? Oh, 20%. Cool. Okay, great. And that's this person's role. Well, if they own that, okay, so are you good at it? Is it working? No. Oh, well, maybe it's you. Maybe it's process. Maybe it's wrong clients. Maybe we have the wrong, a strategy around who our clients are, or what we're charging them, or what we're actually offering them, and all that. But the point is that a lot of these folks, a lot of my clients, are so far down in the weeds that it's almost terminal to yank them out. Mm-hmm. They can't handle it. The whiplash and the adjustment is too painful.
We couldn't. I mean, it's like, so we read the EOS and it said, you need to set aside a day, come up, your leadership team, and it's like, and without interruptions, without cell phones, without things, and it's like that. So we bring up who we think our leadership team is, and it's like, there's nobody left in the office. So who's going to run this thing? Who's going to? Well, me, it wasn't a bus. It's an airplane we're flying. Yeah. It's not a bus. If it quits running, you're alongside the road, and it's like you're just not moving.
Just coast off.
An airplane,
right? You're going to crash.
It's like the airplane wing is. You're working on the airplane wing that's flying. It's like it's coming down. And so we had to schedule on Saturdays at first, and it was so difficult for us to get. Like something blow up at the office and one of our leadership team had to go back or had to deal with it. And it's like some of our early meetings were so stressful.
Yeah. We did Saturdays for a while, like a year or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how your leadership team evolves. It's like, well, that's not really the leadership team, are they? And you kind of invite too many people in, and then it's like trying to figure that out. Yeah. Great patience, you had with us during that, because it's like you weren't the stickler and said, oh, well, these are the rules. It's like you understood, and it's like you understand this is an airplane that we're flying. This is their business. The other big hurdle that you do when you jump into something like this is like, we're probably like most businesses out there. It's like, we had no cash. We didn't have like an extra X amount of dollars set to spend on something that's like kind of visionary, arbitrary to get us where we're going.
Seems optional.
It does. And, it's like, how are we going to do this? And this is going to be painful. And it's like, it actually feels like it's sending us the wrong direction, not the right direction.
That's right.
And so that was a big adjustment. When you sat around the table and said, okay, who owns this? And everybody's looking at me. Okay. Obviously we have a problem. It's like, I'm the problem. I'm not letting things go. It's why I have so much stress in my life. And I was willing, and I'm the one that wanted to change that. So it wasn't like I liked being in this place. I didn't like having all the control. I didn't like the stress that it brought me. I didn't like how it made people feel around me. I was likened once. I took one of those assessment tests, a DISC test, and the guy was reading my result, and he read it in front of a whole class, and he's like, I have never seen somebody score this high on the D before. Really? And he's like, what are you, Attila the Hun or something? And it's like, okay, it's like, well, that's not really something to be proud of, so it's like, okay, but some of that's in your inner wiring. That's not like something you can just change. Yeah. But I wanted to change it. I'm still a D. Yeah. But I'm
remember your score on the D?
I was like 100%.
Whoa.
I mean, I was like 99 or 100. He's like, I've never seen anybody take it there.
Yeah. So the other colors just didn't show up?
Very little. It's like, and I hated eyes. Yeah. Eyes is like, man, you don't get anything done. Quit annoying me. Get out of my way. Oh man. Get the facts out. I don't care about your story. And now it's like I like story. I like to hear people, and it's like there's other sides. And again, emotional intelligence, learning how to recognize who you are and how you interact with other people. Oh yeah, I was just way in the D, and it's like, you would be a great corrections officer. You would be, it's like it's your way, the highway, or drill sergeant, your way, highway. Nobody else can have a say, no opinions.
Yeah,
dry. So,
where do you think you are now? If you were to take it now,
I'm still. I'm a lot more DI. I love people now. I didn't like people back then.
Yeah.
But I'm also a strong C too, so I'm not an S. And S is really,
The C, what is it? Blue, green. Is it blue, green?
Colors, I don't know the colors, but C's is like accountants, like analyzers, things like that.
Okay.
That's at 2 a.m. in the morning for me, where I can sit down and just dig into the numbers and think and analytical and things like that. I'm strong that way. D, as far as leadership, now I'm still a strong D, but we had a meeting yesterday and you kept looking at me, and we're in this transition stage where my daughter is going to be the CEO, chief operating officer, and you're asking me these questions. I'm not even answering you.
Yeah.
And before,
I didn't quite get the memo. I'm like, I'm talking to the wrong person.
But before, I just would have answered them, and it's like me learning how to nope, that's her. So before I walk into a room and I had a presence, and I was going to be involved in all the conversations, and it's like there's so much value in listening. Sitting back. So I'll never be an S, but having a lot of I in me, having a lot of C in me, I'm a lot more balanced.
Yeah, that's cool.
People like me now.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
You're an okay guy, Tim.
You're all right. So these core values I got down here on top. I know that's your acronym. So talk about them.
So our core values, we spent a lot of time writing them. And there were certain things. We looked at some people in our organization, who I am, what we believe we are. And we came up with these core values. That on top thing was something I was like, again, 2 a.m. in the morning, I'm looking at these things, and it's like an easy way to remember these core values. But our core values is, first of all, we're organized. Details matter. And it's like, and we want to hand these details off from the initial call to the salesperson, to move coordinator, to the crew, to billing and finance. And it's like all the way through. It's like sales can't quote $1 and then operations wants to charge them $1,000 and finance is trying to figure out what's in the middle. It's like it all matters. So organize and things like that. So some of the things like organize, what we've done is like, we used to be like 30 or 40% paperless. Now we're like 95 to 98% paperless. And that keeps us organized because I can pull up on my phone, my laptop, my iPad, wherever we're at, we can pull up all the information about any client at any time. So we can all see all that stuff, and we have answers, and it's shared with the crews, it's shared with everybody. Doing what's necessary. So it's like, my brother and I were raised in a culture of, you lead by example, and that means you step up, and if it's for short crews or need something, we step in there and do it. And my brother and I, again, we're trying to run a business. When it's short, my brother and I and my daughter and my wife and everybody's jumping in, and it's like, it doesn't run a business. You can take a business so far that way. It doesn't work well, but there is a thing about doing what's necessary and leading by example and putting that in your culture. And it's like, we don't say to a customer, no, we don't do that. We figure out how to do that. Okay. Yeah. So, and it's like, we're going to solve that problem. Now, we may not do it ourselves. We may third party. We may do it some other way. Yeah. But the answer is not no. Like, let us figure it out. So we do whatever is necessary. So team is super important to us. So when we started with you, we had 2 or 3 teams. We had a sales team, we had an operations team, we had a management team, and they were all fighting.
Fairly isolated,
right? Silos.
Competing.
And that's, again, this terrible business model, but it's common. I mean, it's really common, especially sales and operations.
Sure.
And it's like, how do we bring these together? And so team is super important. We've got some tools that we use, like Slack is a tool that we use. And, all of our crews can talk to the CEO through Slack, can talk to the salespeople. They can talk to anybody they want to. We have different rooms and things like that to help us to communicate better, to play team, solve problems together, because ultimately we are there to serve our clients, make our clients happy. And as a team, we have a better success at doing that than just leaving that up to 1 or 2 people. Others first is on the second O. That shows up in everything you do. It's like the results and the positive comes back. The bottom line changes when you serve other people. And it starts, I use this analogy a lot. It's like we live on our business. We don't live. Our business is on a major road. And it's like, it's not pulling out in front of traffic. You know, it's like being patient,
right?
you know, it's like letting somebody else out in traffic, you know, slowing down and saying, hey, they're waiting. I've waited a while. It's showing up and saying, what matters to you is more important than what matters to me. And when you do that, it's like that starts to show up in your, you know, we want everybody to feel valued and successful and heard. And you can't do that and say, I'm most important at the same time. They conflict with each other.
Yeah.
And then lastly is positive attitude. So it's just like our office, our culture is fun. Our teams are fun. We laugh. We have meals together, and we have a thing on Fridays. We haven't done it in a while, but it really happens in the summertime. We haven't done it as much since COVID either, when we were in the office a lot. But Fridays, about 3, 4 o'clock, Chris or somebody, myself, will run to the drive-through. We'll pick up some beers and wine coolers, and 3, 4 o'clock, and we're just going to unwind and
Yeah, that's great.
you know, just debrief the week, and it's like celebrate the wins, and we have fun, and we don't just work 9 to 5. You know, we're talking to each other. There's a joke in the company. It's like, well, I send a lot of emails and Slacks out at 2 and 3 in the morning, not because I expect a response, because that's when I'm working and I know they have their notifications turned off. But you know, but we have these communications going on all the time. We're texting, we're laughing, we do things together, and we have fun. And being positive and encouraging is hugely important to us. And we want our customers, like I said, customers said they were fun to work with. They were exciting. They were positive. They treated me well. That's our core values showing up, going all the way down to the crews.
You get that kind of feedback from clients?
All the time. And we've gotten more of it in the last, it's really clicked in the last year.
Have you seen, like, if you look back over umpteen years, have you seen like a, you know, just a uptick in that?
Oh yeah, it's grown exponentially. I mean, we used to get maybe 10 reviews a month, and you know we'll see 10 reviews in a week now. You know, and there's those kind of comments. They were just so much fun to work with. They were so helpful.
That's
they
great.
were positive. So it's these core values that are kind of bleeding out into actions.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. One of the things that's a big challenge with this, and core values are huge. There's a number of pitfalls that I see people fall into with these, and one of them is not having them. You know, first of all, not being able to say, "Hey, this is who we are," and that's really what the word or the term or maybe the placeholder of here's what core values are. Is they are a definition of your culture. They're the distilled, almost the essential oil of your culture. Like, hey, this is who we are around here. This is how we act and behave. This is how we think and work, how we treat each other, how we look at ourselves and clients and marketplace. And if you don't act and think and work like that, we're not going to like you, and you're not going to like us. Like we screwed up. Somebody screwed up by putting us together.
And that doesn't make you a bad person.
No.
It doesn't make you just not going to fit in our organization.
That's right. And there's only so many things you can do about that, you know, too, at the end of the day. So that's the first big mistake is folks just don't have them, you know. And the next mistake is they have what I would call, wimpy or inclusive or kind of broad-brushed values where it's almost like, just, you know, if you're nice or whatever, you know, you'll be fine. Or they're vague, and we need to make the core values have to be clearly differentiating, where you say, where you can say to a person, you're not acting or working the way we do, and be able to kind of draw that line in there. And this is, you know, again, Jim Collins, this is the definition of the right person on the bus. They match these values, and they're meant to be a permeable membrane that repels folks that don't match and attract folks that do. So you got to be able to talk about it in a way that folks go, oh, that's how I am. Or, oh, those are your core values. Oh, I should probably leave now.
Right.
We laugh about the interview process. We're in an interview process, and I'm sure you do this. I know you do this, but very early, to come out of the gate with like, look, we're not even going to talk about the dumb job until we get through letting you know we have a culture, and this is how we define it. And we want to make sure you know that, and don't even think about working here if you don't match it. Mm-hmm. And we're going to work hard to keep you from working here if you don't match it.
Well, we've even had customers on the other side of it say, they may not have been the best furniture. Mm-hmm. They didn't handle the furniture the best.
Right.
But they were incredible to work with, and we don't even care.
That's right.
It was like they didn't file a claim. I don't want to. I'm not complaining about the service or the quality, because they were so much fun to work with.
That's right.
Awesome.
It's a strategic win. I mean, you could say, well, it's important for folks to do their job well.
Yeah.
But if they match the culture, that can like trump a lot of things. Mm-hmm. It can fix a lot of things. So I love that.
That was the thing with the core values, and when the guys did. The customer recognized the guys weren't making mistakes because they weren't trying hard and didn't care.
Yeah.
Just accidents happen, and they're like, hey, the customers were full of grace.
Yeah.
And it's like, because, we see, and again, the guy yesterday, it's like the core values are important. Mm-hmm. And so it's one of the things that sets us apart. Yeah. We're not movers. Now we're more than just movers. Anybody can find movers. You pickup truck and two guys as movers.
Yeah, sure. This, so you've heard me talk, I'm going to hold this up here, Grit, this away. Grit is a book that we're going to be talking about in the coming episodes. Get this in the middle there we go, by Angela Duckworth. Chapter 12 of this book is about culture. And she's a psychologist. She's kind of a research-centered psychologist. And she points out, from studies and lots of examples, how absolutely fundamental it is to have a good culture, and how culture is unique between organizations. And she's focusing on a particular type of character quality, which is grit, or just kind of like the ability to be passionate and have perseverance. It's kind of like, I'm not quitting. You can't. I'm going to work really hard. Mm-hmm. But that's a big deal. Like, culture is a huge deal in the organization, and it's the leader's job, especially the visionary's job, to be the beacon of, hey, folks, this is who we are here, and here's why we exist. And here's where we're going.
It changed how we ran like our Indeed ads for hiring.
That's right.
If we quit hiring around technical skills and we said, this is who we are. Yeah. We're hiring on top, and on top, we believe that if you fit into our culture, that on top is what it's going to, we even created these poker chips that have on top on it, remind people of the culture and who we are. If we do these things, it's going to elevate us above other movers.
Absolutely.
And so we started hiding around this process. Go and try, if you own any kind of a business, and try, there's certain jobs that are just like impossible to run ads for and hire anybody. Driving is one of them. Go look out on Indeed, go look out on any of the hiring things, and put a search for drivers, and look how many thousands of ads it takes to sort through. And how do you rise to the top if you're hiring a driver? That's right. It's like, it's dollars. I mean, it's a commodity, Yeah. And we started running ads on our core values, and this is what we're looking for, and this is what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. This is what we're looking for. We're not looking for drivers. We're not looking for movers. We're looking for people that are like this, and these are the responsibilities they're going to fall under. Mm-hmm. And we started getting some of the best applicants and some of the best people, and it's like, and even if they didn't drive, we could, there's this culture. Yeah. Can I learn to drive? Because it's like, hey, how can I be grow in the organization? How can I put others first? How can I, where can I serve? Sure. And it just transformed the way, the quality of people that were even showing up in the interview process.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's one of the big misses. Well, even going back to some of the templated, hard-edged, plug-and-play systems around running a business, they kind of miss the deeper beauty, or the deeper kind of like, hey, here's here's what we're trying to solve. It can be a little more transactional, a little more like, well, let's just make a little more money and save a little money so that we can sell, or so that we can, I don't know, have better profits, or so that we can have less stress. And all those things are good, perhaps, but we've got to be able to really get to the root of, here's who we are, here's why we're doing this, and it can't be about money. Now, if an organization is all about money, I suppose that's okay. But we all know that if we're in an organization that's all about money, as a central driver, that it becomes, it's icky. It's just like, hedonistic almost.
Right. We made all of
self-centered.
At 1.7, 1.6, 1.8 million where we were at.
Yeah.
I was making all of the decisions based around just money.
Yeah.
And not these core value things.
Yeah.
Not putting customers first, not putting others first. It was always money, because it was fear driven. It's like if I don't make a decision, it's going to affect these people negatively, and not thinking of it. And that was a big shift, as we started working with you and the Lodestone, and that's like, okay, I told you I did my budget the other day, and I'm like doing my budget, and it's like I'm looking back at the monthly budgets, and it's like, that can't be right, because we don't do that much in a month. Because I'm just kind of looking at the yearly thing, and I'm breaking it down months and categories and things like that, and it's like, wow, that's crazy. That's what we did last year. Yeah. That month, that's what we did last year. So, and it's like when you first jump into this, you think it's hard for you to see. In fact, I was like, if we grow 12%, if we grow 8%, wow, that would be huge. That would be, we started with you, and we were somewhere between 1.6 and 1.8. I'm not sure exactly where we were at that time. And, we're going to do a little over 3 million this year in 4 years. And we've been growing 25, 30% every year. And once you start being not paralyzed by the fear of money, and you start making decisions that are the best for who you want to be, who your customers are, who your employees are, you don't even, you consider money. It's in the equation. It always is.
Sure. It's got to be there.
It's not the first.
That's right.
It's like, is this going to help us get where we want to go? It might be $100,000 that you're spending. It might be $50,000, but it's like, okay, but what's this going to do for us? What's the return on investment look like? Yeah, that's right. Not how does it affect my budget today?
Right. Yeah. So you've got twice the revenue, half the stress, twice the available time.
Right.
Probably more than that. 3 times the available time, personally.
Yep.
I would argue that your staff is less stressed.
Well, and like when we have a leadership team meeting, we can have it anytime, because now we have a staff that
we're not doing Saturdays.
Runs the business when we're not there. Today,
your phones aren't going crazy while we're doing sessions and all that. You have profit. You have 100% less debt, or 99% or something.
Yeah, we're pretty much. We know when we came to you, we had a big boat anchor. We had a lot of debt. Yeah. Very little cash flow.
Do you remember what we called that on our stepping stone? Remember, STD.
Oh, yeah.
Short-term debt.
Yep.
It's just like, and we measured hey guys, we got to get rid of these STDs or whatever.
Yeah. And it was a big number. It was a big number. Sure. And then
weighty.
Then we're coming, we're working through this, and I feel like, boy, I believed we were really starting to make traction. Things were really, I thought 2020 is going to be an amazing year for us. And we had these goals for 2020 and budgets, and it's like, this is going to be the year we're going to come out. And we get to like March, and this whole COVID thing hit, and it's like, oh man. Now what? And it's like, and the whole economy was so paralyzed for probably 30 to 60 days. Yeah. It just what's going to happen? What are we going to do? And nobody knew. Is this like, is this the Armageddon? Is this the end? What is like this? It's like, how bad is this going to get? Do we just lock up and shelter? And thankfully, we were considered an essential business. And one of the books, I think Jim Collins, or it was somebody, and it's like I read, and it was like, businesses that are successful were the ones that expand during contraction. When everybody else is contraction, you're looking how you can expand. So I was like, okay, we got the PPP money. And it's like, you know, hey, we're not going to save this PPP money. That's the old me, fear. Put the PPP money in the bank, and that's how we're going to survive this thing. We took 100% of our PPP money, invested it, and we're going to rebrand. We're going to create, we do portable storage containers. We developed our own brand there, started building that out, really started on our marketing plan, sales and marketing, trying to grow our market. And, you know, through COVID, you know, even though we were down, I think we were down 40% in the second quarter. We finished up 35 or 30% in the year. Wow. You know, so we not only made that deficit up, and then carried that through 2021 and 2022. Yeah. But it's a different mentality. You cannot be. It's so easy to when we're in a. They keep talking the words recession, contraction, and things like that. And again, we're just looking at the opposite. How do we expand in this market? How do we grow? We're looking at what do we do. So I'm not happy with 3%. I don't want to decline, but 3%. Yeah, we'll set our budget at 8%. But we're aiming for 20. You know, I got a sales and marketing, the girl that wants my seat. We're $3 million, and her and I are talking today. And it's like she's like, okay, $5 million. This is where we're going. $5 million. You know, that's not 8%.
That's right. That's right.
It's like you know,
sounds like 60 or 80 or something.
Yeah. So it's it's a completely different mentality, and when you start to believe in yourself and who you are and go after that, it is huge. And coaching for us, it's like you get sucked in your business, and the day in and day out. And I can't tell you the number of times, Mark, that I've come up here. Just maybe I didn't even talk to you. I came and sat in one of your rooms and things like that, and I just need to think, and I just need to write on your whiteboards. But then if I talked with you, or talk with you and Shane, or you know, we have one of our sessions up here, and it re-energizes you, and it's like, okay, gets us back on focus, and it's like these numbers are not these are not that hard. Yeah. And now when it feels slow, you know, we're kind of pulling our hat, and it's like, oh man, it's slowing down. And it's like, I look at our numbers, and we're 80% higher than we were 2 years ago at the same time. Yeah. We don't even know what slow is anymore.
You're on fire compared to 2 years ago at the same time, right? Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, without being too self-serving, you know, we have a great space here at Lodestone that we've built intentionally to make room for our clients to have a good day, to literally get out of their business and come hang out here. Not whether they're doing a session or not. This is outside of session work, outside of leadership team meetings with me or other coaches, but around, hey, just get out of your business, come up here and hang around in one of our rooms and just think, process, whiteboard, strategize. We have folks that come up are working on books, you know, or working on family strategies. You know, they got to get out of the house to do that, or get out of the business to do that. Or they're working on partnership strategies, or they're working on, you know, maybe the marketing strategies, or other kind of operational truths that they just you can't see it when you're inside the business. And this is, you know, this concept is from, what's his name? Gödel, Kurt Gödel.
Why are you looking at me?
I don't know. Like, help a brother out. G-O-E, and the E has that little thing over top. G-O-E-D-E-L. Kurt Gödel, right? As a gringo, but
what's that for?
Well, it's German. He's a German.
Is it a book you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, he's a mathematician. I think it's my phone buzzing.
I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah, he's a mathematician from the 30s. Yeah, and he had this breakthrough theory that, in some ways, from what I understand, flipped generations of mathematic history, theory on its head. Just kind of like whoa, it just flipped it. And inside of this theory, one of his premises, or one of the things he proved or showed or postulated, I don't know, was that you cannot understand a system from inside of it. Right. You just can't see it. You're too close.
Frederick Gödel.
All right. That's how you pronounce it? Gödel?
Gödel.
Yeah, so it's G-O-E with the weird thing over it. What is that thing?
I don't know.
The German thing.
It's 2 dots.
2 dots.
I don't know what it's called.
That's right. Gödel.
I will fly in a little education.
Okay, yes. And I think it was in the 30s. I think he was Austrian or German or something. I kind of looked into
Austrian-American.
I looked into it a little bit to just try to understand it somewhat, and he has this kind of like, basically he kind of postulates, like, it's like, basically we will never be able to prove or disprove God's existence. He kind of says that. It's like, because we are permanently stuck in humanity.
Right.
Like, we can't leave humanity.
So you can't step outside
like
and see it.
Yeah, and it's just like a fish going, hey, fish, let's talk about water. Like, they can't. They have no... Now, we can, because we're outside of it.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, it's not that deep or philosophical, but geez, if you're in your business, you can't see it. You can't see what's wrong with it. You got to get outside of it. And to just walk away and drive away and come here and hang out, like, that's a great hack.
I love doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's
so
like
good for you.
So I've encouraged, handing down leadership is not handing down, it's handing responsibilities. It's not, and it's handing some like tasks, but really it's like handing down, how do you take to the next level?
Yeah.
So as I talk to my daughters, she's stepping into this. It's like, it's like, you got to get out of the business. You because you've passed that on to me, and it's like, that's like, I've got to pass that on to her. It's like, this is instrumental on us moving forward and you moving forward.
Yeah.
And she thought that's the most absurd thing. And it's like, you got to be here. And it's like, she's loving it now.
Sure. Yeah.
She gets fired up when she gets out of the business. She's got some new vision, new ideas, and encouraging the staff to do the same thing.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, so while we're on the subject of business coaches and all that stuff, one of the things I love to ask business owners, and without being overtly self-serving here, really to just help out some folks. What advice would you give somebody besides just calling Lodestone? What's our number?
330.
No, but seriously, if you're a business owner out there and you're like, oh, I should pick a business coach or some other advisor.
Yeah.
Whether it's marketing advisor or HR advisor, right? Or somebody who's going to go, all right, I'm going to come in and help you figure this out. How would you, make some suggestions to what, especially around a business coach, because business coaching can be pretty important. It can be pretty touchy. We're ripping apart and putting back together some pretty important things, and it's important you got the right one. Right. They're not all great fits. You got to have a great fit. So what would you say to that person?
I would say everything in your being is going to repel against it. You're going to say that's not a good choice. And I'd say it's kind of equivalent to having a car without engine oil. It's like it looks good, the car looks amazing and things like that. The oil is what's going to make your car actually run and sustain. And so a business coach, you're going to say, it's like, man, it's just like, I just don't want to put this investment into it. I don't want to do that. And it's like, I didn't want to. My brother definitely didn't want to. It's like, this just does not make sense. But I bet there's a whole bunch of businesses out there that we're like ourselves. It's like we're family businesses. We're small. We're stressed about making payroll. We're stressed about payables. We're stressed about some of our debt. How do we grow this business? How do we move beyond being a business where the business owns me to where I actually own the business? Mm-hmm. And you're not probably going to get there without a coach. Unless it's a lot of luck, because you have to have an outside perspective that says, okay, let's break down this thing into little pieces. Let's work on our foundations, and let's build from there. And we would still be 1.8 million, and we would have been bankrupt. I mean, 1.8 million. Our revenue wouldn't have gone up, but everything else in the last 4 years has gone up, increasing, significantly, exponentially. Yeah. So, if we would not have had a plan to say, how are we going to take this to the next level and get there, we would have been bankrupt, and I would be working a job someplace, and Chris would be working a job, and we'd have all these employees that were relying on us to keep this business afloat and make good decisions. That are out there looking for jobs too. Yeah. Your responsibility of a business owner is not as much to yourself and your family as you think it might be, but you have other people that that are dependent on you to make good decisions.
Yeah, sure.
You have other people, and it's like that are hoping that you know what you're doing, and if you don't, that you're getting the training and and it's like you need to look at it as like, they're dependent on me to carry this business and to lead in a good way, and it's like there is so many people that are so much better. I know how to run my business, the technical aspect of the business.
Right.
Like I know how to move somebody.
Right.
I know how to.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know how to necessarily run a business. I talked to somebody today, and it's like, okay, what we do. There used to be a product or company called BSAF. Do you remember that? And their commercials were great. Yeah. They said, we don't make any products. We make the products that you make better. Yeah. Okay. That's what a business coach does. He doesn't have to know anything about your business. He takes your business and he makes it better. Yeah. And you cannot do that from sitting in within the side. You may think, well, I can save money and I'll do it myself. And that would be like you saying, you know what? We need a website. I'm going to, you might be a moving storage company. You might be a doctor. You might be, you could be any kind of business, a lumber company, whatever. And you say, you know what? I think we need a website. We're going to make it ourselves. That's the stupidest decision you can make. You need to go outside of yourself and find an expert in that, whether it's a business coach or a web designer or an HR or a marketing company. And because when you're small, you can't afford to hire the best. Yeah. So you need to reach out to outside sources and partner with some really good people that are like ancillary, that they're like fractional employees. That was a thing that I kind of learned through you, fractional employees. And we have several fractional. I got a fractional marketing company that we work with, and it feels like they're on our team. And he's got a scorecard and he's got some responsibilities, but he's a contractor. He's not on my payroll. Yeah. And so hiring a coach is essential because you don't know what you don't know. You're too close to the business, and that will help you get out and make good decisions.
Well, so how would you? And I would say, well, I don't know what your decision process was in hiring me, but if you were to say to somebody, you should hire a coach that A, B, C, that what?
Well, and that was luck with you. I mean, it was because as soon as I talked to you on the phone, it's like you're like us. You think like us.
Well, so I would say that first part, there needs to be some chemistry.
Yeah, there has to be chemistry, right?
Some context, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
I'm not blowing in there with a suit and a tie, right? And I'm not showing up in my BMW.
This is how I show up to work, It's like I'm casual.
Blue collar.
We're jeans. We're dogs at work. We have a beer at work. And it's like my first conversation with you, very similar that way. And not getting political, but if you're progressive or liberal, then you probably want to hire a coach that leans that way. If you're right conservative, you want to hire a coach because those are vastly different ways of looking at the world.
Philosophically, sure, it can be a real problem. That's right.
Faith is a huge portion. It's like you and I are in very, very similar places in our faith journey and things like that. We haven't even going back, we have some of the similar roots. Yeah. Didn't know that at the time, but those things kind of start showing up. And so if faith is important to you, then you want to have somebody, you don't want to have an atheist as your coach because he just doesn't get it. Yeah. So that would be important. You want to have somebody that doesn't see you as a business. It's like with you, Mark. I feel like you're a brother. I feel like you're a friend. I feel like you are part of our business. And it's like we connect all the time. We talk, and it's like that's important. And it's like you and I were talking just a little bit ago, and it's like there's people that are using your service that never call you. Yeah. Even though that's part of what you provide. Sure. It's like why would you not? Yeah. And it's like you want to take advantage of. Not take advantage, that's not a good word, but I mean, you want to utilize what's available to you.
That's right.
And you clearly make that, you're not this stuffy, you bought 2 hours, and so you get your 2 hours, is up. That's not who you are.
Kill me now. I know. Yeah, utilization.
And so it's like, you don't want to work with somebody, it's like lawyers and accountants and things like that. They bill hourly, and it's like, call them and you send them an email, and it's like, man, I really don't want to send this email because I know they're going to give me a $150 bill. Yeah. I never feel that way with you. Yes. And that
well, we did want to talk about that. Sorry. I meant to mention that earlier. We've changed our email billing system.
So, there's a lot of times that, I text you, I say, hey, you got time for a call?
Yeah, sure.
And it's like, we'll say 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and we might talk an hour.
Yeah.
Because we have a connection.
Yeah.
And so you want to connect with the people that you're working with, a coach, your fractional employees. You want them to fit your culture too. That Mark fits our culture. He's an on-type type of person. Mm-hmm. So if you have a culture, you don't want somebody you're getting help from to not fit your culture.
Yeah.
That's important.
Sure.
And nowhere in there did I say budget. It absolutely comes. It's like if you're $500,000 a year, and it's like,
right.
Okay, you're not us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's not
Shane, should we do that? I think we just add a couple zeros on everything. I think that's
probably not a great idea.
Probably not.
Yeah.
We'd lose everybody. Yeah. And they should all fire us too at that point. But
so budget should not be the leading thing.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to make budget the thing. And it's like,
but it does have to be a good value.
It does have to be value. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt that I feel like we get value. Mm-hmm. But it's so hard to quantify what you do.
Yeah.
Because some of this stuff is like, okay, we're spending money here, and I realize you don't see it yet, Tim.
Yeah.
But this is where we're going, and this is where we're going to be, and this is going to be no issue. We're going to hit this no problem.
You're going to look back and be really glad
that you did this, and it's like, and I'm spending so much time looking in the rearview mirror, and like, we're never going to get there. We're never going to get there. But you do. That's what you want, somebody to inspire you. Yeah. You want somebody to aspire you into to greater things, not just inspire you, to aspire to see your best in yourself. Encourage, get in your face.
Does that happen?
Well, Mark, you're not, and see, this is what I like about you. It's like you and I have some direct conversations, mm-hmm. but in our coaching sessions, especially with our team, it's like I liken it to like, okay, here's your diamond, and we're going to look at it from this direction. Okay, you didn't see it that way, so we're going to turn the diamond on. Let's see it from a little bit different direction. Mm-hmm. And then one day it clicked with me. It's like he's talked about the same thing the last 3 different times we've been together from different angles, and we haven't picked up on it once.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So inside baseball, after you guys leave, I'm like, man, I challenged that people 3 times. Like, when are they gonna get it? But it's early in my coaching process that was hard for me to understand. That was hard for me to get comfortable with.
Well, and a good coach wants you to discover it yourself.
Yeah.
Their job is to help guide you.
Yeah.
But it's not coaching if you tell us what the issue is.
Yeah.
That's now you're telling us.
That's more consulting.
Right? Yeah, consulting, it's like, hey, and it's like you just need to fix this, and it's like, it is much more powerful to figure it out yourself and deal with it yourself. I mean, we had the 3 knuckleheads we talked about for 18 months, and it's we had the situation with. It's like you had, I don't know how many times you said this. You said, okay, you need to either, maybe you need to consider you run the business and Chris is out of the business. Chris runs the business, you're out of the business, or you both sell the business. And it's like, okay, well, those aren't really options because Chris and I are both running the business. And that's what I kept hearing every time. Yeah. Okay, well, you need to run the business, or Chris needs to run the business, or you need to sell the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I never heard option 4, but I kept coming back to option 4.
I don't think I mentioned one.
Option 4?
There were a couple times where, you're like, hey, I need to talk. And I'm like, hey, Tanya, my wife, I'm going to give him these 3 options again. It's like, there aren't any other ones. Like, I mean, I wish there were, there might be like, I don't know. Or you could change seats, I guess, and like you can both stay in there, and and it's not any real. It's not a slight on either one of them.
No, it's not. And once we got to this place, Chris and I are both happier. Yeah, we are both happier. Yeah, I wish we. And one of the things that is your deal is epiphanies. Yeah, and then you talk about epiphanies as like something that is like, if I would have known this 10 years ago, it would have made a world of difference. Yeah, but it's like epiphanies. They're
costly.
They're costly,
yes,
but they're very valuable.
Yes.
And we just couldn't get there because we're that fish in the water. All we do is see water. What water?
Yeah.
There's no water around us.
That's right. We're just fish.
What are you talking about water?
And I would argue that the wise find their epiphanies at half price.
Mm-hmm.
And you and Chris found a very valuable, and I would argue way less than half price.
Mm-hmm.
You figured out how to do the business better.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you would have kept going the way you did, both of you would be ill right now, or bankrupt, or some version of way less good.
Well,
right?
and the thing of it is, like, we've been working with you 4 years. This epiphany happened in January. It was on our annual this year, and kind of a big blow up and things like that.
Yeah.
We put Kaylin into the seat of running the business, and Chris and I kind of becoming owners. And it's like we've accomplished more in the last 10 months, 9 months than the previous 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that epiphany was that important. And, it's like huge life changes. I called Chris today. Chris, we were both in the office all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I think we've been in the office a couple times this week. We haven't ever seen each other. I said, are you hunting today? And he's like,
yes.
I was hunting earlier this morning and things like that. And it's like, I've been in a little bit. The freedom that we feel is like, we trust her. She's really doing a great job.
Yeah.
This epiphany is like, sometimes as owners, you say this all the time, you're the problem. Mm-hmm. We're looking at all these other people and all these other issues, and it's like, okay, you're in the way. And get out of the way yourself. I can tell every business owner out there, you are not ever going to see yourself that you're the problem. Mm-hmm. You're not. You need to have a coach.
Yeah.
To help you see that.
Yeah.
And so working with you, you were never a jerk about it. You were never, like I said, we're friends, we're brothers. Yep. It was never like, oh man, I hate calling him. I'm not going to call him because he's going to make me feel like a jerk. It was never that way. You were very gentle. You were very kind. You helped us get there. And then once we got this epiphany, it's like a huge transformation in our company just from that one epiphany.
Yeah.
And we've had a bunch, but I mean, that one was a huge one. And it's like our annual meeting last year was uncomfortable, for everybody.
Yeah.
And I thought, how are we going to navigate past this? And we did. And it's like, my brother and I are in a better place, and my wife and I are in a better place. My daughter loves what she's doing. And
yeah, sure.
So it's good.
That's great. Well, so I kind of, what I'm hearing you say is that pick a coach who can stick in there with you, or maybe is bought in enough to kind of not shy away from the hard stuff. And honestly, that has been that's been really tough for me, inside baseball again. Just that's one of the things I've had to learn how to get comfortable with. I don't like saying things to people that I think they're not going to like. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's on the Enneagram side of things. I'm an 8 all day long.
That's your 9.
But that's the 9. Kicking I have this wing of 9. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not on my toes and really healthy or really kind of like careful, I will default to being, just saying the comfortable things. Mm-hmm. And that's not a great coaching value right there. And so it's been tricky for me to do that, but I've figured it out.
There's a way to say the uncomfortable things without being a jerk.
Jerk about it, sure.
Or making you alienate your clients or alienate the people you're working with, because you never were that way.
Sure.
And we could say, well, Mark, why didn't you tell us this sooner? Why weren't you more direct? But epiphanies really have to come with, it's like a light bulb going on in your head. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you cannot hear it from somebody else. So it's got to resonate with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's got to be like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Yeah. And it's like, there's probably a lot of people that are working with you, talking with you, seeing these videos, these podcasts, that are family businesses, and family businesses are messy, and we make too many decisions in a family businesses around family and not around business.
Yeah.
And you need to make them around business, and then because actually what's going to happen, you think that you're protecting your family by not making business decision, you're actually making it worse.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, my brother and I hardly talked to each other at times because we were making the decisions which we thought were the best businesses, the best family decisions, not the best business decisions. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's less stress between my brother and I now that we made the best business decision, got us both in the right place.
Yeah.
And we can salvage our relationship. But the way it was going, we were not going on a good track.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a big deal. A lot of times with family businesses, when you make these kind of decisions like, hey, equal pay for mom and dad, and just trying to be equitable or something fair, maybe, these decisions end up being destructive to both business and family.
Right, they were.
There's no upside to it, but you think you're helping both.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think one of the important reasons to have a coach who cares. I would say one of the ways I decide, I don't just kind of, I appreciate cash in the client's check. And I don't, there have been times that clients have walked away from me or I've walked away from them. Just like you were talking earlier about clients of yours. But I have to make a decision when somebody, a potential client comes and says, hey, we need a business coach, blah, 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 blah. I got to look at them and decide, like, can I get entwined in their why? Do I agree with where they're going? And can I run with them for years and years? And do I have the emotional buy-in, to their business, their personality, their family? That's a big indicator to me if I've got the right client, where if I can help them with the business and have the business help the family, be a value add to the family, not a detractor from the family. And if a client doesn't have a family vision of some sort, it's really hard for me to be all in. And I kind of think twice about that, and so I do think it's important as you're picking a business coach that you find somebody that has that they're emotionally equal or symbiotic to the vision of the business and the vision of the owners and how that impacts the big picture. Because, as we're fixing this thing, it's not about money. Money is a huge part of every conversation. Profit, efficiency, productivity, sales, all that stuff. It's just a big old deal. But it's not a good why. It's a terrible why. And for the folks that are like, hey, we're just trying to blah, 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 blah money, I'm like, well, go call somebody else.
Right,
really. I could help them, but I don't want to. I don't like it. And I'm glad I'm not their employee, too. And they're wondering why nobody else likes them either. I'm like, well,
that shows up.
It's all about money.
Yeah, you're all about money. It shows up in everything you are. And I'm sure it did with us. I'm sure that some of the decisions I made early on, customers thought, all he does is cares about the bottom line. And I did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a negative thing. I'm just trying to keep this business afloat.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
it wasn't self-serving. It wasn't like I was loading millions of dollars in my pocket.
Right.
It was the other way. I was just trying to keep this thing afloat.
Yeah. You're trying not to die, literally and figuratively.
Yeah. So it's like it wasn't self-serving in that aspect. It's like, he's just lining his pocket so he can have $1 million income. No, that wasn't the case. And most small business owners, that's exactly where they're at. Yeah. They are not in this. They love what they do. They're passionate what they do. They like their employees. They like their customers. And they hate that they're struggling. They hate that they just are getting by. And it's like they have a good why. They actually really have a good why. And they don't know how to transform it into, it's like, how can I actually be successful at this?
Yeah.
One of the things that I say all the time, and it's like, this is what I'd like to do. And it's like, I would do it. I do it for free. Business ownership is very lonely. It is probably one of the loneliest things out there because it's like your employees really don't like you. Your spouse doesn't really like you because you're miserable. Your family's not really a fan because it's like, okay, well, you're not really present. You're not at our stuff. So we don't think really a lot of you. Your
Yes.
clients, your customers, like, it's like you're just selling a service. And like, we like you kind of, but it's like, we're not your friend.
Hey, but there's the IRS, buddy. They
the IRS,
come on.
the IRS kind of likes you, but it's like, so it's like, it's lonely, and it's like, and it's, and everybody, there's humility, and it's like, everybody, this facade of like, we're doing really well. I know a lot of businesses that look like they're really doing well, but really to sit down, if I went to them and talked to them and said, okay, show me your books.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your family and your relationship. How close are you to divorce? What's your relationship with your kids?
Sure.
You start digging in deeper, and it's like, it's a mess.
Yeah.
And it's like, this sucks. Why am I doing this? It's
That's
like,
right.
I'm about on the edge of the divorce. My kids hate me. We have no money in the bank. I've got no retirement. I'm putting all this. My employees are making more money than me. Why am I doing this? It's very lonely. Yeah. And it's like, a coach comes alongside and it's like, okay, you don't have to stay in this place. And it's like, he's not saying get a job.
Right.
He's saying, how do we take this business from this to this where, so just looking at me and my wife and I have a better relationship. We spend more time. Yeah. I'm not consumed by my phone. I'm going vacation. We are going to Florida every 6 weeks now. And, we're building a house down there. And it's like, that was not possible 4 years ago.
Yeah. And you're not stressed.
Not stressed at all.
Yeah.
It's like we're on the beach and walking, and I'm talking business at times, but it's not in a negative way. It's not in a stressful way.
It's pleasurable. Sure.
It's where how I process. My kids, on my way up here, I called my one daughter, and it's like, I'm thinking about doing this podcast thing. I think I see a huge value in more videos and connecting with my customers where they are. I'm not even thinking about it from a dollar and cents thing. My daughter's like, I know so much about that. You got to see this thing, and I want to share this person. You need to do this. They're doing great at this. Yeah. And it's like I feel closer to my daughter that's taken over the business. There was times that her and I years ago didn't even talk to each other because I was such a jerk. And so that relationship, it's like she really appreciates the time that we have together. My youngest daughter works for me. It's like it doesn't have to be lonely. It doesn't have to be miserable. And it's like that is the biggest reason to get a coach, not about dollars and cents. Yeah, sure. There's so much more. You can be a millionaire and be miserable. You can be a billionaire and be miserable. Absolutely. But you can have a very successful, fruitful business that and empowers you to have time with your family, that your customers and your team feels like, I like working here. I want to work here. I want to work with this company. And it's very rewarding. I love working. I love my job. I love doing the things I do. And money is like so far down the list, and it's like we know that money is a measure, but it is not the only measure.
Well, when it's not there, it becomes the most important thing. Yeah. I know. It is definitely the fundamental issue, and that's one of the big things we work on. Is let's make this thing productive. Let's make it so that you're operating efficiently. Let's figure out where it is. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not there to go like, well, here's where we're there, whatever. We're just popping the hood on the thing. Right. It's interesting with Kaylin, your daughter, that's taken over. When you first kind of were like, hey, I think Kaylin could do this. I'm like, you do? I'm like, I didn't agree with you.
You didn't.
Are you sure? I'm not seeing.
You thought I was falling back into my own patterns, just repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I can't, it's not, that's one of the things, one of the things I tell my clients all the time is like, hey, this isn't my business. I don't own the results of your decisions. And so I have to be really careful to not insert my opinion. And it's a lot of times clients will be like, hey, what would you do? I don't know. That's a fair question because, I guess, I can kind of couch it in some context, but at the end of the day, my job is to help you figure it out and help hold you accountable to whatever you figured out and get you to kind of see up past wherever you're at and go toward the bigger picture. But you made a great decision in putting Kaylin. You and Chris did that together. Well,
and part of the reason why you couldn't see it, because you spent way too many of our business coaching sessions were family counseling sessions. Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
Where she's a puddle of tears, my wife's a puddle of tears, it's a big fight, and it's like... And you thought she had no backbone, and it's like, and you know, Chris and I are both strong personalities.
Yes.
And Caitlin is a strong personality, but compared to Chris and I, and again, I'm dad and Chris is uncle.
That's right. That's a huge
so
deal.
that's a demo. That's a huge thing. That's not just it's like I'm not just standing up for myself. Now I'm standing up against my dad or my uncle, and that's like this. I'm quivering in my boots. I don't know what to do. So the emotions was tears. Yeah. And but we've coached her through that, and it's like she's actually stood up to both of us many times. And
she's doing a great job.
And but so you were seeing this. You dealt with this family counseling. I thought, oh, we got a bargain. It just the business coach, because we got family counseling and business coaching for the same price.
We'll send you a bill.
Speaking of price, I mean, we did. Did I mention?
We keep joking around.
Oh man. Well, you know, I mean, it's funny. Like when somebody says, "Hey, I got an accountant," and you know, God bless accountants. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, really.
But
I'm not. But you know, there's these narrow, somewhat narrow ways to look at business: legal, HR, accounting, sales, profit. You know, marketing.
It's just little slices.
Yeah, sure. Those are slices and they're big deals, but they're isolated. And when a business coach comes along and says, oh, we're going to work on blah, blah, blah process. Like, well, yeah, but we got this daughter and we got this brother and we got this parent.
And wife.
Dude, these are big deals.
Yeah.
You cannot isolate those things. They're not isolatable. And if you think they are, go away. Like you need a different coach at that point. Although I suppose you can sterilize. You can sterilize, but I just don't think it's worth it.
We can. We didn't.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think it's effective.
Yeah, we used to warn people when they came into our business. Like when we hired you, I was like, okay, there's like 4, 5, 6 Campbells in this business, and there's sometimes that we'll have a family blow up that's related to a business blow up, or a business blow up that's related to the family blow up, and it'll work itself out. I mean, I remember one time Kaylin quit, and I'm like, "No, you're not quitting." And she's, "I'm quitting," and it's like she's dragging me away on her car as I won't let her go. It was just like, wow. But I mean,
now when was that? What year?
Oh, that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I mean,
like resignation not accepted.
Yeah, you can't quit. It's not an option,
dude. That's like Hotel California, right?
You can never, but
you can check leave. Out, but you can never leave. Like you know.
Oh, but I mean that happened with me and I quit many times working for my parents. My mom quit. I mean, it's just like you have these big blow-ups, and it's like you don't know what else to do, and that's what being a small business owner looks like. That's real, and that's so much reason more why to have a coach that's outside of it. It's like helps you. Okay. We have the blow-ups. We have it. Yeah. It's not the end of the business. It's not the end of your marriage. It's not the end of the relationship you're with a kid. We'll get there. Yeah. That's a symptom of something that's deeper here, and we're gonna help. We're gonna solve that. Yeah. And for us, that's what Lodestone, Mark, Shane, you guys have done. You guys come along and you've helped us solve some of these things, and help us get us to this place that we couldn't see we could get to. Yeah. And we wouldn't have got there by ourselves. And you created this fun culture. I like to hang out here. It's like this. I like to come up.
Me too. We when I bought this building, I bought it in 2017, and Shane, you came along
middle of 2020, right in the
2020,
in the middle of the pandemic. Yeah.
And I said to myself, like, I want a place where I like being. Right. Like if I could hang out here all day, check. And then my clients will be able to, and it's. Yeah, so big deal. All right, well, let me ask you then. One of the things I want to ask you: what's your favorite, or what do you find or what sticks out as far as a, tool process, Lodestone thing that you're like, dang, we love this one thing or that one thing or something. I don't know, any of it that sticks out.
Favorite things. Well. Probably one of the things that I utilize the most is leading indicators. And it's like, okay, we came on day one and we said, okay, it's like, what's your leading indicator? And for us, we thought it was the number of quotes we were given a month or quotes we were given a week. I was like, okay, but there's something before that. And it's like, okay, well, what is that? It's like, And so now, it's like we use HubSpot, and I pull up every week and it's like, this is how many leads we came in. And now I'm meeting with my team. We had this many leads came in, and how do we move them from lead to conversation started to appointment to pending to booked move to close things and things like that. Before we were just looking at appointments, and it's like, okay, there's something before that. And now, but there's things like, I'm always looking, okay, well, what's before leads? What drives the leads? So is it, your podcast? Is it your website? Like, what are you doing? And these are hard to measure.
That's right.
But what's driving? Okay. So if 200 leads convert to 10 booked jobs, then 1,000 leads converts to 50 booked jobs, whatever it is, it's like, it just is. And it's like, so often we focus on, we think they're leading indicators, but they're really lagging. So that was huge for me, from a sales and marketing perspective. The other thing that was really huge, I just had a conversation yesterday. We talk a lot about processes. Processes for us, when you started talking about processes, I was thinking systems. I was thinking about, okay, well, our payroll process is this, or our operations process is this. And we started building processes, and they were processes and like move process. Okay, this is when the crew goes out, this is what they do on every move. It's like McDonald's. It's like, because that way, no matter what, you get the same hamburger. You don't get a bratwurst. You get a pickle, you don't get a pickle. You get the same thing. Sales process, okay. If we're not selling in a consistent way, then those are going to create problems. Like if this person is selling this way and talking about dollars and cents, and they're quoting this, but it could go up to this, or the price isn't locked, and this one's quoting this is a flat price. Those are huge worlds apart, and neither one of them are necessarily wrong. But if you have a process that's in place, then it's always going to be consistent, and you're quoting the same way. So that's how I viewed processes. But then we started looking at issues through the lens of processes and people. So we'll have an issue that shows up. So my daughter and I sit and we brainstorm, okay, what caused this issue? Is it a broken process, or is it a broken person? Is it wrong people, right seat? Is there a coaching thing here needs to happen in process? So we started seeing, okay, man, if we just, that mistake there, it could be, some of them were so simple. It's just, if we put this into our this email that goes out, and we get a signature here on this, then that process has solved itself. It's like customers will say, oh, well, I didn't know about that. Well, if we include it in this email here, and they sign for this email here, it's like, well, it says right here you did know about it. And it's like, and I realize that's a simple little thing, but that's a little thing that we put in our process that said, that fixed a lot. It could save us, it saves us thousands of dollars. I mean, it's not like, that's like a 2-second process that saved us thousands of dollars. Another thing, like drivers go out and it's like, well, I didn't use a tablet today. I didn't use a tablet. What do you mean you didn't use a tablet today? That's got all of our signatures and documents and the things for the customer to agree to.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, what do you mean? So that's a people, we got to deal with a people thing there.
Yeah.
We have the process in place. You as a person ignored it.
Right.
So we dealt with that. So those were huge. The other thing that has been the biggest thing for us is the right people in the right seats. And had a conversation just this week with my daughter, and it's like, I love our team. Every single person on our team I love. I've loved a lot of the people over the years that worked for us, but they were not the right people in the right seats. And it's like, you either find a seat that they fit 100% into, or they're just not part of your organization, and you've got to get comfortable with separating, I like you, but you just don't fit here. And it's like, that's not a negative. And you're going to be better off someplace else anyhow. That was a huge tool, and we didn't embrace it. And along with that tool is hire slowly, fire quickly. And it's like you got to get rid of them.
Easy to say.
It's easy to say. And it's like, I am probably in our company, I have fired way more people than anybody. It's like, even in this new ownership seat, like, okay, it was last winter, I think it was. And we had operations was kind of sidestepping firing this person, and somebody else was sidestepping firing this person. And this person came in and was like, and I'm running sales. I have nothing to do with operations this time. And this guy comes in, and I see him sidestepping, and they're not doing it. He looks at me, and it's like, I'm here for some meeting. And I was like, you just need to, we freed you up for your employment. You're no longer an employee here anymore. And he goes, what? I said, you're fired. You don't work here.
Fired.
And everybody's kind of looking at me. It's like, we have to. He is a terrible fit. And the thing of it is, your tools and the things you've given us over the year, and then they've never been wrong, and you think they're wrong. You think, oh, this one time we're going to redeem somebody. You have a really good, not you, but you start as a business owner in these tools, and you start to recognize you have a really good, there's this thing goes off in your head that says, he's an issue. He's never going to fit our culture. He's not the right person. She's not the right person. And your thoughts is, I can redeem them. I can redeem them. And I'm not saying firing's the first step.
Yeah.
But it's earlier on in the process than we ever think it is, because that person you think is going to redeem, we have one, and he was one of the 3 knuckleheads 3 years ago that's still with us. And I can look back, and while there's some good attributes about him, he has cost us tens of thousands of dollars by not firing him.
Yeah.
And it's like the other 2 knuckleheads, they're gone. And we never thought, it's like, you think, well, they do this and this and this and this. And it's like, so what? They're still costing us.
Yeah.
And so it's like trusting to recognize you either fit our organization, and it's like it shows up on a scorecard. It shows up on People Analyzer is a great tool. I love that tool because it's just really plus, minus, and minus. It's super clear. You either, these are our core values, you fit, you get it, you want it, you have the ability to do it.
Capacity.
GMA is what's called, or
GWC.
GWC, yeah. And it's like you grade, and it's like, we want you to meet these criteria, and if you don't, you just don't fit. And so you'll grade somebody on there, and you see all these pluses and plus minuses and minuses, and it's like, well, but he does this well. Or they do this well, or she's so nice. And it's like, you have the tool, use it, trust it, and you will be so much better off in the long run. And there's so many tools that we've gotten from you, and it's like, that's a good one. Yeah. The accountability chart is huge. And it's like we forget it, but it's like, okay, you start getting down the wrong path, and you look at somebody, and it's like, okay, let's go grab the accountability chart. Or is that person doing what we hired them to do? Are they the best person for that seat? Is the accountability chart that we wrote at that time, is that still accurate, or is it not? Yeah. And so if it's not right, then we need to rewrite it and then analyze that person again. Did they fit? No, then they're gone. And it's like, that sounds so cold, but it's like, if they don't fit in your organization, you don't want them, and they don't want to be there anyhow. So they're not a good fit. And I know that sounds callous and cold, but we're not in this. We deal in facts, not feelings. Yeah. My daughters say that, and it's like, there is so many people in your organization and their families that are relying on you to do these things. You need to do them. Yeah. And there's nobody else that's going to do them. Your secretary is not going to fire somebody. Yeah. Sure. Your warehouseman is not going to fire somebody. Yeah. They're trusting you. You're trusting them to run the forklift and load and unload trucks. You're trusting your secretary to answer the phone. You're trusting your financial person to do the billing and do that accurately. They're trusting you to make the tough calls and the tough decisions as a manager, as an owner, that nobody else is going to make. Yeah. And if you're not doing them, then you're not owning your seat.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's good to ask at what cost. At what cost are we keeping this person? It's easy to say, well, let's give them another chance and all this stuff. And that's there's nothing
wrong with grace.
Wrong with that.
No.
But you have to kind of say, I think one of the root issues around people's inability to make the hard decisions is clarity of, here's where we're going, here's why we exist, and here's who we are. And then say, now, is this person going to help us with that? No. Okay. Now, so we either need to change where we're going because of this person, or we need to change the person, get them out. Because if this is where we're going, this person is not going to help us get there. And now if you go, well, we don't know if this person can help us get there. Okay, so we don't have a clear sense of who owns what, or we don't have a clear sense of, hey, are you doing a good job every week? Are you doing the inputs that are going to produce outputs, whether it's behaviors, et cetera, scorecard type stuff? But when you sit down with somebody to quote unquote hold them accountable, a big miss is folks don't park. Hey, here's why we exist, and here's where we're going, here's who we are. So, therefore, let's talk about this thing. Do you want to go there with us, Bob, or do you want to, be a meaningful part of this? Because this is what we need you to do to help us get there. Do you want to go there? No, I don't. Or yes, I do. Oh, I'm glad you said yes. We would like you to help us. But the problem is the seat you're sitting in needs these things and these things and these things, and you keep saying no. So do you want to sit in another seat? Do you want to? And it starts to put back on them ownership. And one of the reasons they're so confused about ownership is because we haven't created clarity as owners, leaders of where we're going, et cetera. A great book around some of that is what's his name? Henry Cloud, Necessary Endings. Really, really good book around pruning, essentially. Making the decisions to trim folks or things out of your life that are not helping, that are not healthy.
Right. I had dinner a week or so ago. It was a couple weeks ago. We were in Florida with an ex-employee. He was a friend of mine, an ex-employee, and he was 20-some years ago, maybe 15, 18 years, I don't remember exactly. He worked for us, and I knew I needed to fire him. He knew I needed to fire him, and it was not anything to do with him. It was, I think it was right after. I'm pretty sure it was right after the dot-com bubble.
Okay.
It might have been 2008, but I think it was before. I think it was the dot-com bubble. Whereas our industry, the economy, and it's like, you don't have a choice. You got to get rid of me.
Yeah.
He knew it, but he made me step into that. And it's like, it was uncomfortable. And there was so much anxiety about doing it and so much relief on the other side. And that's what I've tried to teach my daughter and other people that are on my team is like, there is more anxiety and frustration on the front side of it than on the back side. You always feel better after that. The very next day or that day, it sucks. And it's like, it's uncomfortable. Sure. 2-3 days later, you're feeling like, man, I'm so thankful that I did that.
Yeah, sure.
So him and I had dinner the other day, and it's like, and oftentimes we think that, man, we're looking at it through the lens. I'm gonna fire them. I'm gonna terminate them, and their life's gonna be worse off. His life is amazing after that. Yeah. And if he would have stayed with our company, he was capped because he couldn't. And so I freed him up for future employment. I realize that sounds like a cheap thing, but it's like future opportunities and things like that, because he was not going to go very far in our business because of what was going on. And we've gotten rid of people in our business at the time. They never would have gotten the opportunities if we would have kept them, and they never would have made it to the level that they made it. So you've got to look at it from that lens. That it's like, you don't know what you're freeing them up for. And again, coming back to the rest of your team is relying on you to, the decisions you make don't just impact you. This is like, it's uncomfortable. It affects my paychecks. It affects my family. It's not just one family over here. It's the entire organization. And it's tough and it's uncomfortable, but that's what leadership and being an owner is.
Yeah, I love it. Most folks can't see very far down the road. And as a business owner, leader, visionary, especially, it's really part of your job. To go, I can see around that corner, or I can see what's coming, or I can see a little bit down the road, or a lot. And most folks that have, a day job, career type thing, by definition, what they see is right in front of them. They're good at it.
Right.
And so they're bad at maybe seeing further down the road more. And that's okay. And so a lot of times it's up to us, it's up to the visionary to kind of go, I don't think this is going to work for you because we're going there and I think you're going over here. Now you need to change A, B, C, X, Y, Z if you want to be with us going over there. But you in or out, and that's part of the That's part of the difficulty of, that's the unsavory part of being a business owner and leader. Well, and nobody needs to like it. You don't have to like firing.
It's unsavory, but everybody has parts of their job they don't like.
Yes.
There is.
Absolutely.
But to me, there's nothing more rewarding to stepping into conflict and dealing with things, because that's my job.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, that's everybody's job.
And bringing about a resolution, a real permanent resolution. Sure.
And because, wow, that was a win for the business.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's what God has equipped me to do and feel comfortable in, and I want to pass that on to other people. And it's like, I'm not callous about it. I wrestle with it.
Sure.
And it's never an easy decision, but it is, and it's never a quick decision. It's like, there's a lot of things that are going on, sleepless nights and running numbers. And it's like, is this going to work? And it's like, in small businesses, it's so tempting to, you say it all, is there another seat for them? Well, in small businesses, there's not that many seats.
Not that many. That's
right. We don't have 100 seats. Well, you don't fit really well in this seat, but how about one of these 4?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we don't have 4 other seats for you. We don't have another seat for you. And it's like,
sure.
So there might be another organization you fit well in. It's just not here. And it's like, I still like you, and you may want to be friends with me or not. And this guy, like I said, we had dinner the other night, had a great time, and we've stayed in touch over the years. And a lot of the people that we've gotten that no longer are with us, that's the situation. And they're better off because of it. Some people are bitter and angry, and they don't see it coming, and it's like, okay, well, that's okay.
Can't help you.
Can't help you.
Yep.
And you've even been with us on that journey.
Yeah.
I've even had some of these conversations with you and saying like, and it's like, okay, you never said, well, you need to do this, Tim. You need to do this. You know, I've always got there on myself, but I bounce these things off of you as a coach and saying, okay, this is what I'm seeing. This is what it's like. And you're just asking me, okay, the tools, people analyzer, is they a good fit? Not a good fit. They doing the job? Are they owning the seat? Are they the right person in the right seat? Are they following the processes? Are they skimping? And it's like, you know, one of the most difficult ones was my brother. You know, it's like telling him, you're just not fitting in that seat. It was awful. It was uncomfortable. Yeah. And but it's
for
like,
everybody, him
everybody,
included, right?
him, you, me.
Hated it. We all hated it.
Everybody's out in the hallway. It's like, hey, we need to have this conversation. It's like, but everybody is better off now. Yeah. I don't think Chris has any regrets. I don't have any regrets. It's like the team is better. Kalen, it's much better.
Yeah. Well, you can't make those calls if you don't have, again, a clear vision.
Right.
So you got to start off with, where are we heading? Why is it important? Who are we as a culture? Okay. Secondly, you can't make those decisions if you don't have a clear set of seats. If you don't have a clear set of, if you sit in this seat, the reason we have this seat is because this needs owned by somebody really well.
Right.
And you can't make those kind of decisions if you don't have that. You have nothing to anchor off of, organizationally. Mm-hmm. So those are hard. Those are hard to get right. It takes a little while. And you've heard me say this before. We've probably done this a dozen times. But there are only, when it comes to people, like, okay, we got this people issue. Well, there's only 7 solutions. That's it. There's just these 7. And there are variations, I suppose, or nuanced realities around these 7 or something. But the first one, and I've done this so many times with clients, around, we could call him some knucklehead. Stan, if you're listening, you know what we're talking about here. Various clients, have been through this, but, and one of the things we do every session is like, all right, let's solve some issues. And it's always like, Bob, let's put Bob on there or whoever, and okay. So first solution, like, well, we could do nothing. We could just, whatever, let's move on. Forget about it. It's not that big of a deal. Okay. That's a solution. I mean, it's an option. Second option is, all right, we can just watch. We can observe. We can kind of like pay attention, take notes. Hey, let's put them on, like, hey, we'll all keep an eye on them and see what we think. Okay, great. That's fine. That's a real option. The third real option is, hey, we can sit him down, and let's take Bob here now, and go, hey, Bob, let's coach you and let's get you some lessons and some training and we'll ride alongside of you and we'll help you out and, you know, coaching if you want it. You can call that whole thing called coaching. Cool. Okay. The fourth option or solution is, well, all right, so we tried the first three. Let's move his seat. Let's give him a different job. You know, he sucks at marketing. Okay, well, how about sales? Or okay, how about janitor? Okay, how about warehouse? Okay, how about whatever? We move his seat. You know, maybe he's just doing something he's no good at, but we love him. Maybe he's great at being here, perhaps, but he's just in the wrong spot. Okay, cool. That's option 4. Option 5 is we sit him down and go like, dude, you're in trouble. You know, you're on notice or some sort of, I don't know, I hate to use the word punitive, but something HR. Like
my brother always says carrot or stick.
Yeah.
You're about the stick level.
Yeah, and here's the stick, right? And carrot and stick is old school, and there's some value maybe, but yeah, we're at stick level. Okay, strike one, whatever. Figure it out or else, right? Okay, cool. Now those first 5 options, there's lots of variations in there. And generally when we go through this, like, hey, have we tried these 5? You know, yeah. A bunch? Yeah. All right. Do you want to keep trying? Do you want to try this again? Like, okay, did we move him? Yeah. Did we give him a strike? Yeah. Did we coach him? Yeah. 3 times. Okay. Did we do nothing? A lot. You know, okay. Well, there's only 2 other options. You know, and the first one is when we find his replacement, we let him go. It's a delayed termination. You know, the second, 7th one is let him go now. That's it. Like I suppose you got little variations in here, perhaps, but these are just the 7. You might even be able to combine a couple of these. But the point is that you work through that as a team and you kind of go, have we done this one? Yeah. Do you want to keep doing this? Or do you want to keep saying the same dang crap over and over and over, like you said it through 3 quarters or 3 years or 3 months or 3 sessions? Do you want to try it again? You know, I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's your business, you know, but
that piece there that you're talking about, was the piece that I realized, man, you just keep turning this diamond, and you want us to see it differently, and it's like, okay, I get where you're going with this. It's like, okay, yeah, we keep doing these same things over and over and over again. We're not doing what we really need to do.
Yeah.
But you had done it many other ways.
Yeah.
But that piece there that's a tool that you brought up, and it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And then you took some action.
And again, so we talk about, you know, what's it like to terminate somebody or separate employment with somebody, and that's tough in itself.
Yeah, sure.
And it is exponentially tougher when it's a brother or a sister, a daughter, a wife. Oh my gosh. Things like that. So it doesn't make that you're still making the wrong decision. You're still making the best decision for the company.
Yeah.
And I'm making the best decision for myself and my brother also.
Yeah.
My brother is going to be better off. I'm going to be better off. My wife and kids are going to be better off. His wife and kids are going to be better off. It's like we're so fearful of like oh, we're going to offend them. We're going to hurt their feelings. And it's like when somebody's not in the right seat, they're miserable anyhow.
Yeah, sure.
So let's either free them up to find another seat, or move them or do something else. But it's like stay in the same seat's just not an option. And it's like,
so one of these, this is a simple little tool. I may have talked about it before on the podcast. I don't know. But this is a tool I made up called the Clarity Maze. And it's really, really helpful in a family business. But these little numbers here, we got it up there. I think you can see it. They're rooms. You think of them as rooms that you walk into. And I don't know if you've...
I haven't seen this one before, no.
So, you know, you and your brother, you can say, all right, so room number 1, and like, hey, this room here, we're going to focus, we're going to have a conversation from the perspective of, we can call this, we own a business. Okay. But let's only talk about the business perspective. And then we can go in room number 2 and say, we're brothers.
Well,
Well,
I'm going to talk about things from a brother's perspective.
that's right. And so, but if the business comes up, say, whoa, we're in the brother room.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about brothers or business? Like, and we have to kind of create some hard edge clarity in that conversation, because our minds, like, we're like, oh, I was still in the business room, and you're talking brother now, or you could say budget, right? It's like, hey, we need to go in the budget room, and I love you as a brother, or this doesn't change ownership. This isn't about ownership. Ownership is ownership.
Just dollars and cents.
Let's just talk about over there, assets or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Dollars and cents. Hey, we pay this person to do this thing and it's not working. Or we're losing money. Or we need to, whatever. You can go in this room, which might be spiritual opinion. I mean, God told me to fire you. Like, well, the fire you is like in this room, like operations, or maybe budget or something. Like, hey, operationally, I need to fire you. Well, God told me. Well, dude, that's spiritual opinion. Who cares? That's a terrible way to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think God's spiritual opinion is run the business good, will you? I mean, I don't think God wants to do anything sucky. I'm pretty sure. I'm no theologian, but anyway, and then you could say, okay, you could even go like politics or culture or whatever. You could just figure out there's tons of
these rooms.
Yeah, mental health. You can go, hey, as a brother, and I'm just making this up. This isn't nothing about you and Chris, but you could say, as a brother, I love you, but man, you're making me crazy. Like this has ruined my marriage or something, or my mental health or something. Okay, cool. My mental health, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you can't mess with the budget. Okay, let's go over here in mental health. And if you want to go talk about these other things, that's fine. Let's leave this room together and understand that we're leaving the mental health room or the brother room and we're going to the budget room.
Right.
Or we're going to the operations room.
Yep.
And
what we tend to do is throw them all together.
All in a big mess.
That's right. And it could be brother, it could be wife.
Absolutely.
It could be daughter, it could be any of these things.
Absolutely.
And it's like they get very intermingled, and it's like
right.
they really, if you keep them separate, is how you can move past them.
Yeah. Well, and this is just meant to help to unwind it. You can't leave it unwound. It's all wound together. But it's meant to help you kind of go, hey, let's hold hands and stay together in our conversation. And make sure we're in the same room at the same time having the same conversation. And it's hard to do that, especially with this. Now, if you're a sole owner and nobody in the business is related to you, okay, that creates some simplicity. The business is still hard to run. There's still budgets and blah, 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 blah. And there's still owner truths. But the owner's it's me, myself, and I, at that point. It's real easy to deal with yourself. I mean, it's a lot easier than dealing with 2 or 3 4 other people. So this little simple tool, Clarity Maze, was really helpful as my business partnership was failing. This was something that popped out. This is a cheap epiphany. Well, this is actually an expensive one. This is a costly one.
Now that you think about
it. Which is like, oh, there's these other things going on here. It's not about the business. I mean, the business mattered. Like, oh, you're trying to solve this other thing. Okay, well, what do you say we put down the checkbook and put down the shares, the operating agreement? Like, that's important. The operating agreement, room number 1.
Right.
Cool. But we were in the spiritual opinion room. Like, dude, the operating agreement goes in room 1.
Yeah, legal.
Like, if we drag that into room 4, everybody's screwed up. Like, nobody's going to win. The meanest guy is going to win or something. Or, you can insert all kinds of psycho terms here. But the point is, this is a really simple to just kind of like take somebody that you're close with. I did this with my daughter, and it was, we had one room here, and it was spiritual opinion was a big deal. Dad, God's telling me to blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, see, I got this room over here. Like, we need to talk about this, which is I have this household to take over the finish line. And if, okay, I'm not going to, my spiritual opinion, like God's telling me to do this opposite thing. But when it comes to how I'm going to run my household, here's how this is going to go. Because this is mine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to run the household, I guess that's okay. But you got to pay the bills and stuff too. You know what I mean? And, and I got these other kids and this other stuff to do. And so I need to make a decision. I'm going to make a decision here. And it's going to conflict with this one.
Right.
It's okay. But to just make it clear, like, hey, so you can go into the relationship room and say, I love you. Here's what I think about you. Here's how I feel. Here's our history. History is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, here's what happened. Oh, well, I think this happened. Oh, well, I think this happened. Okay. And you can safely just go, okay, I don't remember it that way. I remember it this way. Okay. And there's no threat, because you haven't drug in the checkbook or now this is hard to do. It's not easy to walk through these rooms, but it's way better to lay it out like this and say, are we in that room right now or are we in this room?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's the clarity maze. I never showed that to you?
As you explained it, you showed it a long time ago. It was a while ago.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so family businesses are super intertwined and complicated. They're beautiful. They're worth doing. There are a lot of them out there. Most businesses are family businesses at some level. And I think we were thinking about this the other day, Shane, that probably out of our 20 or so clients, probably 18 of them, 17 of them,
The majority.
are arguably a family business of some sort.
Well, I would say, what 90 or 96% of businesses in the country are small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's a small business, it's almost it is a family business, even if it's first generation.
Even if it's a single owner,
because it involves your family, it involves
That's
your
right.
kids, it involves
That's
your
right.
household.
That's right.
Because a small business by nature it's like we so often put our business and our family, they're like we mesh them together.
Yeah.
And the budgets are kind of meshed together,
yeah.
and it's like
Oh, yeah.
messy, and it's like
That's
so
right.
the business is directly affecting the family,
That's
even
right.
though they profit first. It's like we don't always treat it that way. Like
Yeah.
the family is guaranteed this income, just like a job with a small business owner. That's not the case.
That's right.
How the business is doing often is directly related to how the family is doing,
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to be family owners. It doesn't have to be multi-generational to be a family business.
Yeah.
Because it is affecting a family, and there's so many of us out there that are out there, and it's like we're a small family business. And even though I might be the only proprietor, I'm running it myself, and I got some employees. It is deeply affecting my family.
Yeah. There have been a number of times where I've met with somebody that they're kind of like, hey, we heard from so-and-so that we should work with you. And there's one guy in particular I'm thinking about that's a friend of yours that we're doing some great work together. But he came rolling in. I'm like, well, you need to bring your wife in here, before we get started. And because I want to do the math on what this quote unquote awesome business has cost your family. Because there's a real cost there. Really? He's a smart guy. But it was like, there was an opportunity cost on my family side. And we need to even that out. Like we need the business to pay the family back.
Mm-hmm.
Wife and kids, right? And legacy and asset and inheritance and all that stuff. It's like, because mom and dad, mom, and in this situation, mom and kids have been holding down the fort, quote unquote, while you've been out busting it on this business, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just like, dude, we need profits. We need something to come back over to the family side and say, thank you, family, for investing in this business and make it all worthwhile.
Right.
And money is one of the measurable ways of doing that. So we did some kind of math. I think we came up with, I don't remember, $1 million or something.
I don't remember what it was.
It was pretty significant. Like, okay, dude, like you owe your family $1 million. I wasn't quite that, but it was something like that.
It was a lot of money.
And actually that shows up on the balance sheet a lot of times.
Yeah.
You have an employee AR account.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably an AR account. Your account may see it. You may not even see it that much because it's not in your day to day. But if that number is hugely, if it's hugely one direction or the other, it's a great indicator of what you've put in the business and not gotten out of it, or what you've gotten out of the business over and above what the profits are. And it's like, it's a real clear number. And it's like, if, is that an asset on the business sheet, or is it a debit on the business sheet? And if it's an asset on one, it's a debit on the other, on your family. And if it's a debit on your family, it's an asset on the other. It's like it clearly shows up. And it's like, if the business owes you as a family $50,000 or $100,000 or $500,000, that means you've taken money from your family and poured it back into the business to keep the business in life.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's greatly affected your family.
Well, and to that point, we take a person and say, so if you 10 years ago took $500,000 and invested it, which you did, you should be getting a return, right?
Yeah. It's like if you did in the stock market, in real estate, anything else, you would be getting some kind of return. 3, 8, 10, 12, whatever percent it is.
Yep. And so you're like, hey, let's say you hand it to your wealth manager. Hey, wealth manager, here's $500,000. Cool. 10 years ago. Cool. What I got back? Oh, nothing.
Yeah.
You're fired. Right? It's like, dang it. Why'd I hire that guy or girl or whatever? Like, yeah, but you invested it in your dumb business.
Yep.
And you got nothing back. You got nothing to show for it. Except you didn't die or something.
I think way too many people get into business and they think the job, I bought myself a job.
Yeah.
Terrible reason to own a business.
That's right.
You can go get a job. There's plenty of jobs out there, especially today.
Yeah.
That is not why you're owning a business. It is not a job. It is to get a return on your investment. And if you want to work it, then you should be paid a salary commensurate to what you're doing. If you did that same thing out in the business world, you get that. And you get your return on your investment. Both. It's not one or the other, or either or anything like that. It's both and.
Yeah.
But too many people hop into business and like, okay, I'm making $100,000 a year, and that's good. Yeah. No, that's the job you're doing.
Yeah.
And the return on your investment's all your money that you poured into it and time, and that's outside of the job.
That's right. Well, so that's Clarity Maze. And find it in the family biz. That thing is freaking gold. I think we've had a great conversation there, Tim.
It's been good. I enjoyed it. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming on. And if you kind of as a parting, I don't know, bit of advice, let's say some 30-year-old son or brother or daughter, and this is very apropos because your daughter, she's 30, right? Or so, right? Yeah, so let's say you're talking to your daughter, and let's say that was you, but you're like, hey, you really need to figure this thing out, or I screwed this up. It took me 23 years to figure this out. It'd be great if you could figure it out in 3.
Right.
Or something.
Right.
And there's a lot she's doing. There's a lot that she's way ahead of you because
I wish I was her.
Yeah.
If I was myself now, if I would go back to a younger self, I would actually say to myself, be like my daughter.
Oh, wow.
Because she's so much farther ahead in things, and it's like, she recognizes the value of team. She recognizes the value of a coach. She is recognizing the value of getting time away from the business and working on the business, not in the business. She's recognizing the value of these tools and things that I didn't even think, I didn't even know about them. It's like, and she's like, this is just a real clear, it's an easy decision. It's not like this emotional decision. I just run it through the tools. This shows it out. She loves processes, and it's like, man, if I could go back and be somebody different, that's what I would be. I would be my daughter and say, because our business would be so much farther ahead if I would have done what she's doing now. And so proud of her. She's doing amazing. And I wish that I would have learned as soon. And it's like, okay, well, I can say, I wish I would have learned, but how was I going to learn it?
Yeah.
If there's not somebody going before you, if I'm not working with a business coach, if I'm not there speaking into her life, and nothing against my parents, I love my parents, but they didn't know. Mm-hmm. So they weren't speaking into Kristen in my life and say, okay, this is how you need to run this business. Mm-hmm. You know, you need to run it on people and processes and things like that. So she's got us, me and her uncles speaking in and helping her. And it's like, you know, we're not telling her how to run the business. We're trying to help her to run any business. You know, you run it by the numbers, you run it by the people, the processes, get it, want it, ability to do it. All of these things, your core values, how important they are. And she's grasped that. She's not fighting against that. Like, well, that's not important. No, she's like loving it.
That's cool.
She's excited. She's the importance of connecting with other business owners. That's a huge thing. I wish I would have recognized that at her age, but it's like, you know what? We are not silos. You know, our problems and our situations are not unique to ourselves. We like to believe that they are, but almost every business owner is struggling with something the same or similar.
Yeah.
You know, labor things, sales, how do we generate? What's marketing look like? Mm-hmm. Accounting issues, what are our margins? What should they be? You know, it's like, you know, and it's like, so she doesn't have to be in this alone. Not just, she can be meeting with her peers, and she's doing a better job at that than I did.
Yeah.
So she's looking upward with coaches and mentors and things like that. Yeah. And look to your peers. She's got a lot of relationships with, she's building a great relationship with another moving and storage company that's in New York. It's about similar size. She's already grasping ideas and concepts that they're doing. Yeah. Well, there's one thing about working with peers that are the same size. We're a $3 million company, but she has a huge relationship with a moving and storage company. They're a $160 million a year company. Way bigger than us. And they do things way different, but she's grasping some of their experience, some of their knowledge, and saying, you know, we're going to grasp some of the important things that are to us. I wish I would have done that. I used to view everybody else as competition. She doesn't. She views them, and that's one of the things I've learned over the years. Competition's a good thing. It makes us all better. It's a rising tide rises all the boats. And so I embrace relationships, whether it's another mover in the same town, another mover in town over, city over, state over, whatever, because we're unique in some things, and we can help each other. And it's like, what are your best practices? What tools are you using? It's like, as I talk to some of them, it's like, you know what, you need a business coach. You know, it's like, it's clear. It's like, because in the moving industry, huge second, third, fourth generations in the moving industry.
Yeah.
A lot of families, like, because nobody else was stupid enough to start a moving company. You just get stuck in it. But now, you know, I say that 4 or 5 years ago, but now I'm seeing people jump into the moving industry and thinking this is a profitable business, and this is something I want to do, and they're approaching it from a business standpoint, and so that's good. 20-something that I would do different myself that even she's not doing. I know the one thing that I wish I would have done. I wish I would have embraced life a little bit differently back then. She's still, sometimes the business controls her. You know, she's still a lot of hours. Set time aside for yourself. Set time aside for your family. Go on vacation. Enjoy those things. It's like, that's why you own a business. Yeah. Don't let the business own you.
Yeah. Your kids are little for so long.
Yep.
That's it. You can't rewind that thing.
Yeah, I had a teacher. I was taking my youngest daughter to daycare one day, and it's like, and we're walking up the stairs, and my daughter's saying, up, and it's like, you're old enough you can walk. And this one of the teachers says, you know what, there's going to be a day when you're going to want to pick her up, and she doesn't want you to pick her up anymore.
Yeah.
I carried her in every day after that. You know, it's like, because you're right. That's my 18-year-old daughter does not want me to pick her up anymore.
Right.
And appreciate that time. Take the time. It's, you know, I grew up in a culture where it was really important to be the first to work and the last to leave. And it's like, you know what? That's not the most important thing. Spend a little extra time with your family in the morning. The business will be okay. Get out of there a little early to get to their soccer matches, to their basketball things, their sporting events, their violin, choir, whatever they're doing. Because at the end of the day, those are the things that are matter. And that's the freedom that owning a business gives you.
Yep.
A job does not give you that opportunity. A job expects you to be there from 9 to 5, regardless of what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
Being a business owner, it gives you those freedoms. And so embrace those. So that would be my advice to her and to myself at a younger age, is like, really appreciate life. That's the reason why we own businesses.
Yeah, that's great. So wrapping it up, Shane, let's tee up our music here. We're the businesses are there to serve us as business owners. It's really hard to keep that in the right priority or in the right order, but we want to shift from the business running us to us running it. And it's there to bless our families and bless our asset base and all that sort of thing, kids and marriages and all that stuff. And often that's not the case, but that's the goal. And that's why we start them, buy them, run them, own them. But been a really fun conversation with you, Tim. I really, it's been a real pleasure walking along with you in this deal.
Likewise.
So, and also looking forward to the next big season. You're about to shift gears. It's super cool. Kaylin's going to shift gears. That's super cool. Real pleasure to be able to walk with her on this. And Chris has done a great job. You've done a great job. Your wife's done a great job. It's really cool to see this big shift coming on. So thanks for being such a great client. Thanks for being such a great member of our podcast here on episode 025.
Yes.
In the can.
In the can.
We love doing this. Love exposing you folks out there to business owners, operators that are doing it right and learning from how they've done it wrong. So we'll keep doing it. Looking forward to episode 26. Episode 26 is going to be about grit. We got grit teed up here. There it is. Great book. Get reading on that thing.
Get started.
It's fabulous. The audio is glorious. Very well done.
I've ordered mine.
Yes. Awesome.
You'll need to go through it more than once.
Oh, dude. I'm about to hit the second time. I did the audio once. I'm going through this in print, but I'm going to hit audio again, I think, on the way home.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. Episode 025 in the can. Business Broken to Smokin' podcast. Real pleasure, Tim. Shane, great job. Love this song. This is Truckin' by the Grateful Dead.
Yep.
Speaking of trucking, let's just move on down the road. Here we go.
Thank you, guys.
Sometimes the light's all shining on me.
That was fun.
Gödel. It said accents on Gödel.
Gödel.
I don't know if it's Gödel or Gödel.
Gödel. It's like Strudel.
Friedrich.
Friedrich von Strudel.
Kurt Friedrich Gödel. Von Trapp.
The hills are alive with the sound of music.